welcome to Tales in the Dark. I know many of you enjoy relaxing with these videos, so I recommend turning down the volume until my voice is barely audible. It'll make the experience even more soothing. Before you close your eyes, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and enjoy listening. Story 1. The city lights flickered outside as I settled into bed, the distant hum of traffic a familiar lullaby. My curtains were half open, revealing the darkened skyline. Then I saw him, standing motionless, staring directly at me from the other side of the glass. My apartment was 10 stories up. I remained still, my breathing steady and deep. The warm glow of my bedside lamp cast gentle shadows across the room, creating a cocoon of soft light around me. The man's silhouette was oddly peaceful, his presence more intriguing than threatening. His features were indistinct, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain, but his gaze never wavered. The gentle whir of my ceiling fan filled the room with white noise, mixing with the muffled sounds of the city below. A light drizzle had begun to fall, creating delicate patterns on my window. The droplets seemed to pass right through the figure, leaving no trace on his dark form. My silk sheets rustled softly as I shifted position, and I noticed something peculiar. The man's presence felt familiar, like a recurring dream you can never quite remember upon waking. The temperature in my room remained perfectly comfortable, neither warm nor cool, despite the autumn weather outside. Time moved differently in his presence. The digital clock on my nightstand continued its steady count, but the numbers seemed to blur together, losing their meaning. The rain's rhythm grew more pronounced, creating a soothing backdrop to this strange encounter. I found myself studying his attire, a suit that seemed to be made of shadows and moonlight, its edges perpetually shifting like smoke in a gentle breeze. His hat, an old-fashioned fedora, remained perfectly still despite the wind that made the trees dance far below. The scent of rain mixed with something else, a subtle fragrance that reminded me of old books and Earl Grey tea. It drifted through the sealed window, carried on air that shouldn't have been able to enter. My cream-colored curtains swayed ever so slightly, though there was no draft in the room. As I watched, memories began to surface, vague impressions of similar nights, similar encounters, stretching back through years I couldn't quite recall. Had he always been there, on the edges of my consciousness? The thought should have disturbed me, but instead, it brought a strange comfort. The city lights behind him created a soft halo effect, and I noticed that the usual street noise had faded to a whisper. The world outside my window seemed to exist in a different dimension, separated from my room by more than just glass. The boundary between reality and dreams grew increasingly uncertain. My fingers traced patterns on the silk sheets as I contemplated reaching for my phone to capture this moment. But I knew somehow that he wouldn't appear in any photograph. Some things exist only in the space between wakefulness and sleep, in the quiet moments when the world holds its breath. The rain continued its gentle symphony, and I noticed that the drops now formed intricate patterns on my window, patterns that looked almost like words in a language I almost understood. The man's presence seemed connected to these liquid messages, as though he were their author or translator. Minutes or hours passed this way, time losing all meaning in the gentle rainfall and soft lamplight. The figure remained constant, neither approaching nor retreating, a guardian or witness to this strange night. My eyelids grew heavy, but I resisted sleep, not wanting to break this peaceful connection. When dawn finally began to paint the sky in subtle shades of gray, the man's form started to fade, becoming one with the morning mist. As he dissolved into the early light, I felt a gentle touch on my consciousness, not a goodbye, but a promise of return. In the clear light of morning, my window showed no trace of the night's visitor. The only evidence was a single perfect water drop on the inside of the glass, though the window remained firmly locked. I reached out to touch it, but it evaporated under my finger, leaving behind the faintest scent of Earl Grey tea. Now each night, as I prepare for sleep, I leave my curtains half open. Sometimes he's there, sometimes not, but his presence has become as natural as the moon's cycle or the rhythm of the tides. In those moments between wakefulness and dreams, I've come to understand that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be embraced, like a comfortable blanket on a rainy night. Story 2. The night was still, the world wrapped in silence. I had just started drifting into sleep when the sharp chime of my doorbell cut through the quiet. My heart pounded as I checked the peephole. The porch was empty, the street deserted. But when I turned away, the bell rang again. I stood motionless in my darkened hallway, listening to the gentle hum of my refrigerator in the distance and the soft whisper of wind through the trees outside. The old grandfather clock in my living room marked time with its steady rhythm, each tick echoing in the stillness. My bare feet felt the smooth coolness of the wooden floor beneath them as I contemplated what to do next. The pale moonlight filtered through the frosted glass panels beside my door, casting ethereal patterns on the walls. I noticed how the shadows seemed to dance and shift, like gentle waves on a midnight shore. The air carried the faint scent of the jasmine I had planted beneath my windows, its sweet fragrance drifting in through the slight gap under the door. Moving to my living room, I settled into my favorite armchair, its familiar leather creaking softly as I sank into its embrace. The house felt different at this hour, as if it had transformed into something both familiar and strange. Every object cast long shadows, and ordinary sounds took on new meaning in the depth of night. The doorbell remained silent now, but its previous rings lingered in my memory like the afterimage of a camera flash. I found myself studying the shadows, noting how they seemed deeper than usual, more meaningful somehow. The moonlight painted silver streaks across my coffee table, highlighting the rings left by countless cups of tea, each marking a memory of quieter evenings. As I sat there, I became aware of a subtle change in the air pressure, as if the house itself was breathing. The curtains stirred slightly, though all windows were closed. I heard the soft creak of floorboards expanding and contracting with the night's cooling air, a sound that normally went unnoticed during daylight hours. Rising from my chair, I began to explore my home with new eyes. Each room held a different quality of darkness, a unique texture to its shadows. In the kitchen, moonlight gleamed off the chrome faucet, creating a small constellation of reflections on the ceiling. The dining room's empty chairs seemed to hold invisible guests, their presence suggested by the way shadows pooled around their legs. I found myself drawn back to the front door, moving slowly through the silence. The peephole revealed the same empty porch, but now I noticed details I had missed before. The way the street lamp's light caught the dewdrops forming on the railing, each one a perfect sphere containing a miniature reflection of the world. The gentle sway of tree branches creating ever-changing patterns on the concrete. Time seemed to flow differently in these early morning hours, stretching and compressing like taffy pulled by unseen hands. The grandfather clock continued its steady count, but its chimes felt more like suggestions than declarations. I began to wonder if I had truly heard the doorbell at all, or if it had been the beginning of a dream that had pulled me back to wakefulness. As I stood in my hallway, I became aware of a subtle warmth emanating from the door, as if someone had been standing on the other side moments before. I placed my palm against the wood, feeling its grain beneath my fingers. The temperature difference was slight but unmistakable, like the lingering presence of a departed visitor. Outside, the night had taken on a peculiar quality, as if the darkness had texture and depth beyond normal perception. The streetlights created pools of amber illumination that seemed to pulse gently, like the breathing of some vast, sleeping creature. Moths danced in the light, their wings catching the glow like fragments of paper caught in a gentle breeze. I returned to my bedroom, noting how my sheets had cooled in my absence, creating a fresh canvas for sleep. The shadows in the corners seemed to hold secrets, but not threatening ones, more like old friends keeping watch through the night. As I settled back into bed, I realized the mystery of the doorbell would remain unsolved, joining countless other small enigmas that make up the fabric of our lives. Sleep began to reclaim me, but before it did, I heard something new. Not the doorbell this time, but a soft, almost musical tone that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It might have been the wind through the trees, or the settling of the house, or perhaps something else entirely. In that moment between wakefulness and dreams, I understood that some questions are better left as gentle mysteries, their answers held in the space between heartbeats and in the silence between sounds. The last thing I remember before drifting off was the feeling that I wasn't alone, not in a frightening way, but in the comforting sense that the night itself was keeping me company, watching over me as I slept, ready to share its secrets in its own time, in its own way. Story 3. The first one was on my desk, just a small, torn scrap of paper with shaky letters. "Don't trust the voices." I chuckled nervously, thinking I had written it absent-mindedly. But the next night, I found another, tucked under my pillow. "They know you can hear them." I live alone in an old house, where the wooden floors whisper beneath my feet and the walls hold countless stories within their aged wallpaper. My study, where I spend most of my evenings, has always been my sanctuary. The soft amber glow of my desk lamp creates a cocoon of warmth around me as I work late into the night, while rain often taps gently against the window panes. That evening, after finding the second note, I settled into my usual routine. The familiar scent of Earl Grey tea wafted up from my favorite ceramic mug, its surface worn smooth from years of use. The radiator hummed quietly, a constant companion in the stillness of the night. Everything felt normal, predictable, safe. But then I noticed something peculiar about my fountain pen. The ink seemed slightly depleted, though I hadn't used it that day. Running my fingers along the barrel, I felt its lingering warmth, as if someone had recently held it. The sensation sent a gentle shiver down my spine, not of fear, but of curiosity. Over the next few days, more notes appeared in unexpected places. One emerged from between the pages of my journal. The shadows move differently when you're not looking. Another was folded neatly inside my coat pocket. Time isn't flowing right anymore. Each one bore my distinctive handwriting, the slight curl of my Y's, the way my T's leaned forward, the particular pressure points where my pen typically hesitated. I began to notice subtle changes in my environment. Books on my shelves would shift positions overnight, though never falling or appearing disturbed. The grandfather clock in the hallway would sometimes slow its ticking, as if moving through honey, only to sync perfectly with my watch moments later. My tea would be slightly cooler than it should be, despite drinking it immediately after preparation. The most intriguing development was the appearance of small objects I didn't recognize, yet felt inexplicably familiar. A smooth river stone on my windowsill, its surface bearing warmth despite the cool air. A brass key that fit none of my locks, but seemed to carry the weight of importance. A pressed flower between my diary pages, its color preserved as if it were picked yesterday, though I knew it must be old. One particularly quiet evening, as I sat in my reading chair watching dust motes dance in the lamplight, I noticed my reflection in the window seemed delayed by a fraction of a second. Not enough to startle, but enough to make me question my perception of time. The soft crackle of the radio in the background played music that felt both new and nostalgic, though I could never quite catch the name of any song. I started keeping a journal specifically about these occurrences. But when I would review my entries, I'd find additional notes in margins I was certain had been empty before. "We're trying to warn you," one said. "The patterns are becoming clear," stated another. Each message felt like a conversation with myself across different moments in time, though I had no memory of writing them. The house itself seemed to respond to these developments. The creaks and settling sounds took on a rhythmic quality, almost like Morse code if you listened long enough. The shadows cast by my houseplants would sometimes suggest shapes that didn't match their sources. My wind chimes would tinkle softly even when no breeze stirred the air. As weeks passed, I began to feel less unnerved and more intrigued by these manifestations. The notes evolved too, becoming less cryptic and more contemplative. "Reality bends where memory fails," one observed. "Time is not a river, but a sea," another suggested. I found myself engaging with these messages, leaving questions of my own, though I never caught myself in the act of writing either the questions or their answers. My dreams began to carry over into waking life in subtle ways. The scent of pine needles would linger in my study, though no forest stood nearby. The taste of salt would touch my lips on particularly still nights. Sometimes I would hear the distant sound of waves crashing, though I lived far from any coast. The most profound change was in how I perceived time itself. Minutes would stretch like soft caramel, while hours would contract into mere moments. I would find myself completing tasks I hadn't started yet, or remembering conversations that hadn't happened. The boundary between past, present, and future became as fluid as watercolors bleeding into each other on wet paper. One morning, I found a final note, different from the others. Written in my hand, but with a steadiness I didn't recognize. It read, "You're not losing your mind. You're just beginning to understand how it really works." The paper felt warm to the touch, and as I held it, I noticed my shadow moving independently of me, reaching for something just beyond my perception. Now I sit in my study each evening, surrounded by the gentle sounds of my house settling. The notes have stopped appearing, but their presence lingers like perfume in empty rooms. I've come to understand that maybe I was writing them all along, not in this present, but in countless other moments that exist simultaneously with now. The voices I wasn't supposed to trust have become a soft symphony of my own consciousness, echoing across the dimensions of time. My fountain pen rests in its holder, ink still warm, waiting for the next message I might write to myself. Or perhaps I already have, in a moment I haven't reached yet. The grandfather clock chimes softly in the hallway, its sound rippling through the fabric of time like stones dropped in still water. And somewhere, in the gentle darkness of this house, another note is waiting to be found, written in a hand I know better than my own. Story 4. The dim glow of my nightlight cast faint shadows across my room. Everything was as I had left it, except for one thing. My closet door, which I always kept shut, was now slightly open. The darkness inside felt deeper than it should have been, as if something was watching from within. I lay still in my bed, listening to the gentle patter of rain against my window. The sound was usually comforting, but tonight it felt different, more deliberate, like soft footsteps on wet pavement. My bedside clock displayed 3:17 a.m. in soft red numerals that seemed to float in the darkness. The house creaked and settled around me, its old wooden bones adjusting to the night air. I had lived here long enough to know every sound, every groan of the floorboards, every whisper of wind through the eaves. But tonight, the familiar symphony held new notes, subtle variations that made my skin tingle with awareness. My eyes kept returning to that sliver of darkness between the closet door and its frame. Growing up, I had developed a meticulous bedtime routine. Check the windows, close the closet, turn on the nightlight. Never once had I deviated from this pattern. The door being open felt like a tear in the fabric of my reality, small but significant. A cool draft caressed my face, carrying with it the faintest scent of autumn leaves and something else, something older, like the pages of forgotten books or the musty air of abandoned rooms. I pulled my blanket closer, its weight providing a strange comfort against the chill. In the soft glow of my nightlight, I noticed something peculiar about the shadows on my wall. They seemed to move independently of any source, flowing like dark water across the pale surface. I watched, transfixed, as they formed patterns that almost resembled letters before dissolving back into formless shapes. The rain continued its gentle rhythm, but now it seemed to carry whispers within its sound. Not words exactly, but suggestions of words, like conversations heard through thick walls. I found myself straining to understand them, my mind drifting in and out of focus as I listened. My dresser mirror reflected the dim room, but something about the reflection seemed off. The angles weren't quite right, as if I were looking at a slightly different version of my bedroom. The longer I stared, the more subtle differences I noticed, like a game of spot the difference played in near darkness. Time became fluid, stretching and contracting like honey dripping from a spoon. The clock still read 3:17 a.m., but I couldn't be sure how long I'd been watching the shadows dance. My eyelids grew heavy, but sleep felt just out of reach, held at bay by the gentle pull of curiosity. The closet door moved slightly, so slowly I might have imagined it. The gap widened by perhaps a finger's width, revealing more of that impossible darkness within. There was no creak, no sound at all, just the silent parting of wood from frame. I should have been frightened, but instead, I felt an odd sense of peace washing over me. The shadows on the wall had begun to pulse in time with my breathing, and the whispers in the rain seemed to form a lullaby in a language I almost understood. My room had become a space between spaces, neither fully real nor completely imagined. The familiar shapes of my furniture took on new meanings in the dim light, like hieroglyphs waiting to be decoded. The air itself felt thick with possibility. As my consciousness began to drift, I noticed small motes of light floating through the air, like dust caught in sunbeams, except there was no sun. They moved with purpose, tracing geometric patterns in the space between my bed and the closet. Their dance was mesmerizing, each point of light leaving ghostly trails in my vision. I'm not sure when I finally fell asleep, or if I truly slept at all. The boundary between wakefulness and dreams had become as undefined as the shadows on my wall. When morning came, the closet door was closed again, everything in its proper place. But something had changed, subtle but undeniable. Now, each night as I perform my bedtime routine, I pause before closing the closet door. Sometimes I think I catch a glimpse of those floating lights, or hear a whisper beneath the sound of rain. And sometimes, very rarely, I leave the door open just a crack, wondering what might drift in from that space between spaces where shadows dance and time stands still at 3:17 a.m. Story 5. Morning light spilled through the window as I stood at the sink, rubbing sleep from my eyes. I looked up into the mirror, expecting to see my tired face staring back. Instead, I saw something impossible. My reflection was already smiling, just a second before I had even moved. That subtle difference lasted only a heartbeat, yet it planted a seed of unease in my mind. The soft morning sunlight painted golden streaks across the bathroom tiles, and the gentle hum of the house settling surrounded me. I leaned closer to the mirror, studying my features carefully. Everything looked normal now. My reflection perfectly matched my movements as I turned my head slightly, watching the play of light and shadow across my face. The scent of brewing coffee drifted up from the kitchen below, its rich aroma mixing with the crisp morning air coming through the slightly open window. I had always been particular about my morning routine. Wake up at 7, shower, coffee, breakfast. The predictability brought me comfort, especially on days when sleep eluded me, like last night. As I went about my routine, That fleeting moment with the mirror lingered in my thoughts. Throughout the day, I found myself paying more attention to reflective surfaces, store windows, the glossy screen of my phone, even the surface of my morning coffee. Each time, my reflection behaved exactly as it should, making me wonder if I had imagined that morning's discrepancy. That evening, as warm lamplight filled my bedroom, I noticed something different about the mirror hanging on my closet door. The quality of the reflection seemed somehow deeper, as if the space behind the glass extended further than the actual room. When I moved closer to investigate, the reflection matched my approach perfectly. The mirror showed everything exactly as it should: the soft glow of my bedside lamp, the subtle patterns of shadow on the wall, the gentle sway of curtains in the night breeze. I started spending more time observing my reflection, not out of vanity, but curiosity. I began to notice small details I had never paid attention to before: the way my eyes caught the light, how my expressions changed almost imperceptibly with each thought that crossed my mind. The mirror became a window into a version of myself I had never truly studied. One particularly quiet evening, as I sat reading in my favorite armchair, I caught a glimpse of movement in the decorative mirror above the fireplace. When I looked up, everything was still. The reflection showed exactly what it should: me, sitting in my chair, book in hand. But something about the quality of stillness felt wrong, as if the reflection had settled into position just a fraction of a second too late. I started keeping a journal of these occurrences. The entries were mostly mundane: times, dates, and brief descriptions of what I thought I had seen. Most could be easily explained away by tricks of light or fatigue. Yet there was a pattern emerging, subtle but undeniable. The discrepancies always happened during transitions, those brief moments between stillness and motion, between one expression and another. The most striking incident occurred during a rainy afternoon. Drops of water tapped against the windows in a soothing rhythm as I stood before the bathroom mirror, absently running a comb through my hair. I noticed a strange doubling effect, as if my reflection was moving through slightly thicker air, creating a barely perceptible delay. When I stopped moving, my reflection continued for a split second longer, like an echo of motion. Rather than fear, these moments filled me with a deep fascination. The boundary between reality and reflection seemed to be growing thinner, more permeable. I found myself wondering about the nature of consciousness, of identity. If my reflection could move independently, even for a fraction of a second, what did that mean about the relationship between self and image? In bed at night, I would lie awake, listening to the quiet sounds of the house and thinking about the other me, the one in the mirror who sometimes moved just a little differently. I began to notice that I felt most at peace during these moments of disconnect. There was something comforting about the idea that perhaps we were not as rigidly defined as we believed. The morning light now holds a different quality as it filters through my windows. When I stand before the mirror, I take my time, moving slowly and deliberately. Sometimes in that gentle space between sleep and wakefulness, I catch my reflection in a moment of independence. A slight smile, a curious tilt of the head. These instances no longer startle me. Instead, they feel like quiet conversations with another version of myself, one who exists just on the other side of the glass. I have come to appreciate these small divergences. They remind me that reality is more fluid than we imagine, that the boundaries we take for granted might be more permeable than we think. Each morning I look forward to these subtle exchanges with my reflection, these gentle reminders that mystery still exists in the everyday moments of life. The smile I saw that first morning was just the beginning. Now, as I stand before my mirror in the soft morning light, I sometimes wait to see who will smile first, me or my reflection. More often than not, we smile together, sharing a secret that only we understand. Story 6. I almost didn't pick up. The number flashing on my screen was familiar, but it shouldn't have been. My grandmother's old landline, disconnected years ago. My hands trembled as I answered. The voice on the other end was weak, distant. "Sweetheart, it's so cold here." The autumn wind whispered through the curtains of my bedroom as I sat there, phone pressed against my ear. My grandmother's voice carried the same gentle lilt I remembered, the soft way she would draw out certain words, like she was savoring them. The connection crackled with static, a quiet hiss that reminded me of the vinyl records she used to play on Sunday afternoons. "Grandma?" I whispered, my voice barely audible, even to myself. The darkness of my room seemed to deepen, wrapping around me like a familiar blanket. The old wooden floors creaked beneath my feet as I shifted in my chair, and somewhere in the distance, an owl called out into the night. "I've been thinking about the garden," she continued, as if we were having one of our regular conversations from years ago. Her voice drifted in and out like a radio station barely in range. "The roses need tending. You remember how I taught you to prune them, don't you? Always cut at an angle, just above the leaf nodes." I closed my eyes and I could smell them, her prized tea roses, their delicate perfume mixing with the rich earth and morning dew. The memory was so vivid it made my chest ache. The soft ticking of my bedside clock marked the passing seconds as I listened to her breathing, shallow and distant. "The garden is beautiful now, Grandma," I found myself saying, though I hadn't visited her old house since the funeral. "The roses are still there." My voice sounded strange to my own ears, echoing slightly in the quiet room. The temperature seemed to drop, and I pulled my cardigan closer around my shoulders. "Good, good," she murmured. "And the key? You remember where I kept the key?" There was an urgency in her voice now, though still gentle. "Under the third flower pot from the left, the blue one with the crack. You need to find it." My skin prickled with goosebumps. The key, I did remember it, though I'd never known what it was for. I'd seen her retrieve it countless times, always returning it carefully to its hiding place. She'd never mentioned it to me before. "What does it open, Grandma?" I asked, but the static was growing louder, a soft rushing sound like falling rain. The owl called again, closer now, its cry melding with the white noise on the line. "The box in the attic, behind the mirror," she said, her voice becoming fainter. "I left something for you, something important, but you must go at night, when the moon is full. Promise me." The clock on my bedside table showed 3:33 a.m., its red digits casting a soft glow across the room. Outside, clouds parted, and moonlight spilled through my window, painting silver patterns on the floor. I realized I was holding my breath. "I promise," I whispered, though part of me wanted to ask why, wanted to understand how any of this was possible. But I knew somehow that questions would break whatever delicate connection had brought her voice to me. "Good girl," she sighed, and I could hear the smile in her voice, the same way she used to praise me for helping her in the garden. "It's getting darker now. I have to go soon." "Please don't," I said softly, but the static was crescendoing, like waves rushing to shore. Through it, I could barely make out her last words. "Remember, the full moon. I love you, sweetheart. The roses will show you the way." The line went dead, leaving me in silence, broken only by the gentle ticking of the clock and my own heartbeat. My phone's screen showed no record of the call, no evidence that it had ever happened, but I could still smell roses, their fragrance lingering in the air like a memory. I sat there until dawn, watching the moonlight fade and thinking about the key under the blue flower pot, about the mysterious box waiting in the attic. Part of me wondered if I had dreamed it all, but my grandmother's voice had been so clear, so real. As the first rays of sunlight crept into my room, I found myself counting the days until the next full moon, wondering what secrets she had left for me to find. The roses would show me the way, she had said, and somehow I knew they would. Story 7. The abandoned house had always been an eerie presence at the end of the street. Boarded windows, peeling paint, a yard swallowed by weeds. But tonight, as I glanced outside, I froze. A warm, flickering light glowed from an upstairs window, moving as if someone was inside. I settled into my favorite reading chair by the window, wrapping myself in the soft comfort of my grandmother's knitted blanket. The gentle patter of rain against the window pane created a soothing rhythm, almost musical in its steadiness. My breath fogged the glass as I watched the mysterious light dance behind the weathered curtains of that long, empty house. The wind whispered through the trees, making their branches sway in a gentle dance. Autumn leaves rustled across the ground, creating soft scratching sounds that reminded me of pencils writing on paper. The street was quiet, peaceful even, despite the peculiar sight before me. I remembered the stories about the house that the elderly neighbors would share during summer evenings. They spoke of a collector who once lived there, filling every room with beautiful antiques and curious artifacts from distant lands. The rooms were said to be lined with dark wood shelves holding delicate music boxes, vintage photographs, and brass instruments that gleamed in the sunlight that streamed through stained glass windows. The light continued its slow movement, room to room, like someone carrying an old oil lamp. Its warm glow seemed to breathe life into the abandoned structure, making the shadows shift and dance across the facade. I found myself oddly comforted by its presence, rather than frightened. There was something almost familiar about the way it moved, reminiscent of how my mother used to check on me at night when I was small, her candle casting similar patterns on my bedroom walls. As I watched, I noticed other subtle changes in the house. The curtains in one window appeared slightly different, as though someone had carefully adjusted them. A wooden rocking chair on the porch moved ever so slightly, though the wind had died down to barely a whisper. The overgrown garden seemed to have paths worn through it, like someone had been tending to hidden flowers beneath the chaos. The rain grew softer, becoming a gentle mist that caught the glow of the street lamps, creating halos of light in the darkness. The moisture in the air carried the scent of wet earth and aging wood, mixed with something else, something sweet and familiar that I couldn't quite place. Perhaps it was the fragrance of old books, or maybe the lingering trace of furniture polish on antique wood. I found myself drifting deeper into my chair, my thoughts becoming as fluid as the shadows I watched. The boundary between observation and imagination began to blur, much like the misty air outside. Was I truly seeing these changes, or was my mind weaving stories from the threads of neighborhood legends and childhood memories? The light upstairs paused at a window facing my house. For a moment, I thought I saw the silhouette of a figure, tall and elegant, with what appeared to be long, flowing clothes. But the shape was indistinct, like trying to remember the details of a dream upon waking. The figure seemed to be looking out, perhaps watching the rain as I was, sharing this peaceful moment across the divide between our worlds. Time moved differently as I sat there, minutes flowing like honey, thick and sweet. The warm glow from the house remained constant now, settled in what I remembered was once the library. Memory and present reality intertwined as I recalled the one time I had been inside, years ago when the house was being prepared for an estate sale that never happened. I remembered the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the leather-bound volumes, the reading nooks with cushioned window seats. As my eyelids grew heavy, the light began to fade, not suddenly, but gradually, like a sunset. The house seemed to exhale, settling back into its slumber. The rain had stopped entirely now, leaving behind a gentle silence broken only by the occasional drop falling from the eaves. In the morning, the house looked exactly as it had for years, abandoned, silent, still. But something had shifted in how I perceived it. The boards on the windows no longer seemed forbidding, but protective, like shutters closed for the night. The overgrown garden looked less wild, more like a secret haven for whatever magic dwelled within those walls. I never reported the light to anyone, never mentioned it to the neighbors who sometimes commented on the old house's deteriorating state. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved or explained away. Some are meant to be held close, like precious stones that catch the light in unexpected ways, revealing different facets with each viewing. Now, every evening, I find myself drawn to my reading chair by the window. Sometimes I read, sometimes I simply sit, wrapped in my grandmother's blanket, watching. The light hasn't returned, but I remain patient. After all, in a world that moves too quickly, there's something profound in simply waiting, watching, and wondering about the gentle mysteries that live in the spaces between what we know and what we dream. Story 8. I was scrolling through my phone, clearing out old files, when I saw it, an audio recording from last night, time-stamped at 3:12 a.m. Confused, I pressed play. At first, there was only silence, then the sound of slow breathing, and just before the recording ended, a whisper, "I see you." The autumn wind whispered through the gaps in my window frame as I sat there, my finger hovering over the delete button. The pale glow of my desk lamp cast gentle shadows across my room, creating a cocoon of warm light around me. Something made me hesitate. Perhaps it was curiosity, or maybe it was the peculiar quality of that whispered voice, familiar yet distant, like a half-remembered dream. I decided to investigate, but not in the rushed, fearful way that might have been natural. Instead, I approached it methodically, letting my mind drift through the possibilities like leaves floating on a quiet stream. I checked my call history first, wondering if perhaps I had accidentally recorded a late-night conversation. The screen showed no calls during that time. The gentle patter of rain began outside, creating a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. I closed my eyes, trying to remember what I had been doing at 3:12 a.m. My memory offered only the soft darkness of sleep, the weight of my blanket, the distant sound of wind chimes from my neighbor's porch. Opening my recording app again, I noticed something strange. The file size was unusually large for its duration. I expanded the waveform, watching as it spread across my screen like ripples on still water. There, hidden beneath the apparent silence and breathing, was something else. A low, continuous hum, barely perceptible but definitely present. I connected my headphones, the soft cushions enveloping my ears in a cocoon of isolation. The rain continued its gentle symphony outside as I played the recording again, this time focusing on that mysterious undertone. The hum had a pattern to it, rising and falling like the gentle breathing of the ocean. It reminded me of the old analog recordings my grandmother used to play on her vintage record player, where music seemed to emerge from a bed of warm static. As I listened more closely, the hum began to take shape. It wasn't random noise, it was music, but unlike anything I'd heard before. Notes stretched and bent like light through water, forming melodies that seemed to exist just beyond the edge of recognition. The whispered, "I see you" at the end now seemed less threatening, more like an invitation to something I didn't yet understand. My room felt different as I sat there listening. The shadows seemed deeper, but not threatening, as if they held secrets waiting to be discovered. The light from my desk lamp took on a subtle golden quality, and I noticed how it made the dust motes dance in the air, each one carrying its own tiny reflection of the world. I found myself returning to the recording night after night, each time discovering new layers within that seemingly simple audio file. Sometimes I thought I could hear distant conversations buried in the static, or the sound of footsteps moving through empty halls. Other times, the hum transformed into what sounded like choral music, voices weaving together in languages I didn't know. The strangest part was how the recording seemed to change with each listening. Some nights the breathing was slower, more deliberate. Sometimes the whisper at the end carried different inflections, though the words remained the same. Yet when I checked the file properties, nothing had changed. Same size, same duration, same timestamp. I began to notice other small changes in my daily life. My phone's screen would sometimes flicker with patterns that reminded me of the recording's waveform. My dreams became more vivid, filled with images of vast libraries where books wrote themselves and music that could be seen as well as heard. But none of this frightened me. Instead, it felt like I was gradually becoming aware of something that had always been there, just beyond the edge of perception. One night, as I sat listening to the recording for what must have been the 100th time, I noticed my reflection in the window. Behind me, the shadows seemed to shift and flow like ink in water. And there, just for a moment, I saw something else in the glass. Another face, overlaid with mine like a double exposure in an old photograph. It smiled, and I realized I was smiling too. I still haven't deleted the recording. Sometimes late at night, when the world is quiet and the rain taps gently at my window, I play it again. And each time, just before the whisper, I think I understand a little more. The mystery isn't something to be solved, but rather a door to be opened, leading to places where reality bends like light through crystal, where shadows dance to music only they can hear, and where I see you might mean something entirely different from what we imagine. The recording remains on my phone, a digital key to whatever lies beyond the ordinary world. And sometimes now, when I catch my reflection in the window, I whisper back, I see you too. Story 9. The notification lit up my phone, a text from an old contact. My stomach tightened when I saw the name, Jake, my best friend. He had disappeared a year ago without a trace. With shaking hands, I opened the message. I need your help. Please don't tell anyone. I sat in my dimly lit living room, listening to the gentle patter of rain against the windows. The soft amber glow of my reading lamp cast long shadows across the weathered hardwood floor. My fingers hovered over the phone screen as memories of Jake flooded back. We had grown up together, shared countless summer evenings watching the sunset from his back porch, the wood creaking beneath our feet as we talked about our dreams and fears. The last time I saw him, he had been acting strange. He spoke in whispers about patterns he had noticed, about feeling watched. I had dismissed it as stress from his new job at the antiquarian bookstore. Now guilt gnawed at me as I remembered how I had brushed off his concerns. Another message appeared. Remember the old bookstore? Meet me there at midnight. The rational part of my mind knew this couldn't be real. The police had searched everywhere. Jake's phone had been found in his apartment, along with his wallet and keys. Yet here was his number, sending messages that felt so much like him. The way he wrote, the references to our shared past, it all felt genuine. I wrapped myself in a warm cardigan and stepped out into the misty night. The streetlights created halos in the fog, their gentle illumination barely penetrating the darkness. My footsteps echoed softly on the wet pavement as I made my way to the bookstore where Jake had worked. The building stood silent and dark, its Victorian architecture looming against the clouded sky. The bell above the door chimed softly as I entered using the spare key Jake had given me months before his disappearance. The familiar scent of old books and leather bindings enveloped me. Dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight. The floorboards whispered beneath my feet as I moved through the aisles, past towering shelves of leather-bound volumes. Jake, I called softly, my voice barely above a whisper. The silence seemed to absorb my words. My phone buzzed again. Second floor, philosophy section. The wooden stairs creaked as I ascended, each step measured and careful. The philosophy section was tucked away in a corner, illuminated by moonlight filtering through a large bay window. Rain streaked down the glass, creating shifting patterns on the floor. There, on the reading table, lay a book. Its leather binding was worn smooth with age, its pages yellowed. A bookmark protruded from its center. My hands trembled as I opened it to the marked page. Inside, in Jake's familiar handwriting, was a note. Some truths aren't meant to be understood. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. I found something in these pages that changed everything I thought I knew about reality. Now I can't unsee it. I'm safe, but I can't come back. Not in the way you remember me. Watch the shadows carefully. They move differently when you know what to look for. As I read those words, the shadows in the room seemed to deepen. The rain's rhythm against the windows took on an almost musical quality, like a whispered conversation just beyond my understanding. I noticed something else too. The book's pages were blank, yet somehow I had read Jake's message clearly. I sank into the old leather armchair, the one where Jake used to spend his lunch breaks reading. The night wrapped around me like a familiar blanket. My phone's screen remained dark now, but I felt a strange peace settling over me. The mystery of Jake's disappearance hadn't been solved, not really, but something had shifted in my understanding of the world. Sometimes I returned to the bookstore at night, sitting in that same chair, watching the shadows dance across the empty pages of that ancient book. I've never received another text from Jake's number, but I've started to notice what he meant about the shadows. They move differently now, carrying whispers of other worlds in their depths. And on very quiet nights, when the rain taps gently against the windows, I swear I can hear the echo of his laughter in the rustle of turning pages. The mystery of Jake's disappearance remains unsolved in the conventional sense. But perhaps some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be lived with, like the soft sound of rainfall or the gentle creak of old floorboards. They become part of us, changing how we see the world, teaching us that reality holds more wonder and strangeness than we ever imagined. I keep his note, though the words have long since faded from the blank pages. Sometimes I wonder if they were ever really there at all. But I know what I read, just as I know that somewhere, in some form, Jake is still out there, watching the shadows dance across the pages of reality. Story 10. The gentle glow of my bedside lamp barely reaches the dim hallway. As I lie in bed, my gaze follows the faint strip of light under my bedroom door. A shadow glides past, slow and deliberate, sending a shiver down my spine. No sound accompanies its movement, no hint of footsteps. Summoning my courage, I eventually peek into the hallway, only to find it empty. That was 3 weeks ago, and since then, the shadow has become a nightly visitor, a silent companion in the darkness. Its presence has grown familiar, though its origin remains a mystery. The old wooden floors of my house murmur with soft creaks and whispers throughout the night, but the shadow moves without a sound. Tonight, as raindrops tap gently against my window and the wind murmurs through the trees, I find myself anticipating its arrival once more. My bedside lamp casts a warm, inviting light, enveloping me in a cozy atmosphere that accentuates the depths of the surrounding darkness. The scent of lavender from my diffuser mingles with the earthy petrichor drifting in from the slightly ajar window. I have crafted a routine around these nocturnal encounters. I prepare chamomile tea, letting its sweet, floral fragrance fill the room as I nestle into bed with a book. The shadow unfailingly materializes between the turning of pages, drawing my attention to the gap beneath the door. Sometimes it lingers, a silent observer, while other times it glides past like a wisp of air. What captivates me most is how the shadow seems attuned to my inner state. On anxious nights, it moves with a calming slowness, as if offering solace. When tranquility fills my mind, it drifts by like a whisper, a fleeting presence. Despite my inability to explain its existence, I have never felt threatened by it. Recollections of my grandmother's tales about houses developing consciousness over time, absorbing the emotions of their inhabitants, flit through my thoughts. Perhaps this shadow is the house's way of checking on me, ensuring my safety as I straddle the realms of wakefulness and slumber. The nocturnal ambiance transforms the house. Moonlight filters through the skylight, casting a soft sheen on the wooden banister of the stairs. The old grandfather clock in the hall below maintains a gentle, rhythmic ticking that resonates through the serene rooms. The very air feels laden with potential, heavy with the weight of untold narratives. Tonight, a shift occurs in our customary ritual. As I fixate on the space beneath my door, the shadow appears, and instead of passing by, it lingers. Minutes pass, marked by the soft ticking of my bedside clock, as the shadow remains motionless, as if waiting. Driven by an inexplicable impulse, I address it for the first time. "Hello," I murmur, barely disturbing the nocturnal hush. The shadow stirs slightly, and for a fleeting instant, I sense a form of acknowledgement, akin to a silent greeting from an old friend. The room's atmosphere grows warmer, more embracing, akin to being swathed in a gentle embrace. The flame of my scented candle flickers without a breeze, lending a flicker of magic to the moment. Despite my extensive readings on the supernatural, on spirits and enigmatic phenomena, none quite captures this sensation. There are no frigid patches, no foreboding aura, no cryptic messages scrawled on walls or objects moving of their own accord. There exists only this tranquil presence, this shadow that watches over my nights. At times I ponder whether the shadow has always lingered here, unnoticed until now. Could it have stood sentinel over prior occupants, a silent guardian as generations traversed these very chambers? Perhaps it has awaited this moment, the moment someone recognizes its presence, embracing it as an integral part of the house's natural rhythm. As I lie here, observing the shadow gradually dissipate like morning mist, a profound serenity settles within me. The rain maintains its gentle melody against my window, and the house sighs and creaks in familiar patterns. I anticipate the return of my mysterious companion tomorrow night, and every night thereafter. Come morning, I will resume my daily routine, yet a part of me will yearn for dusk, for that juncture, when I can engage in this silent communion with whatever traverses my hallway in the darkest hours of the night. I have ceased attempting to rationalize it to others. How does one articulate a presence that evokes comfort rather than fear, enigma rather than dread? The shadow has seamlessly integrated into my nightly rituals, akin to my chamomile tea and bedtime reading. As drowsiness envelops me and sleep beckons, I fixate on the sliver of light beneath my door. The shadow glides by one final time, its movement so subtle it could be a figment of my imagination. Yet I know better now. Within this house, amidst the quiet interlude between midnight and dawn, not everything necessitates an explanation. And so I succumb to slumber, cocooned by the tranquil symphony of my house at night, secure in the knowledge that my enigmatic protector will return, traversing silently beneath my door, a reassuring presence in the profound hours of darkness. Story 11, The Mysterious Old House. The ancient house loomed at the edge of the sleepy street, its weathered facade telling stories of years long past. It had been ages since I had set foot near it, not since my family packed up and left. Yet as I strolled by, an unseen force compelled me to halt. A silhouette stood in an upstairs window, observing. Curiously, the house had been uninhabited for generations. The crisp autumn breeze carried the fragrance of damp leaves and distant bonfires, enveloping me in a comforting embrace of nostalgia. The wind whispered through the untamed grass, creating ripples reminiscent of the tranquil waves I used to gaze at from my childhood bedroom. And now movement caught my eye from that very same window. Intrigued, I found myself drawn closer, pulled by a blend of reminiscence and intrigue. With every step on the gravel path, the earthy scent of rain-soaked soil rose around me, mingling with the soft crunch underfoot. The porch boards sang their familiar creak, a melody etched in my memory from countless summer evenings spent lost in books. The sound carried me back to a time when this place pulsed with warmth and vitality. A delicate fluttering in my peripheral vision drew my gaze to a lace curtain swaying in the window, though no breeze stirred the air within. The fabric, pristine white, differed from the yellowed, dusty drapes I recalled from my last visit 5 years prior. My hand trailed the weathered railing as I ascended the porch steps, feeling the smooth grooves worn by generations of wandering fingers, mine, my mother's, my grandmother's before me. True to habit, the key remained tucked behind a loose brick in the foundation, just where I had left it 30 years ago. It slipped effortlessly into the lock, turning with a whisper of resistance. The door swung open with a melodic groan, its echo reverberating through the vacant chambers. Inside, the air held a different quality, not stale as anticipated, but cool and fresh, carrying a faint hint of lavender. Dried lavender bundles, a signature touch of my mother's, had always filled the linen closet. My footsteps muffled by a layer of dust on the hardwood floors, I noticed smaller footprints mingling with my own, leading toward the staircase. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls. Dust particles floated lazily in the golden rays, twirling like miniature constellations in a private universe. Each step up the stairs invoked a new memory. The chip in the third step from a clumsy mishap with my father's toolbox. The creaking board near the top that betrayed my teenage escapades. As I reached the second floor, a soft humming wafted down the hallway. The haunting melody, a lullaby from my grandmother's repertoire, seemed to emanate from all directions at once, like a fragment of a forgotten dream. Beneath the worn runner, the floorboards exuded warmth, despite the defunct heating system. My childhood bedroom door stood slightly ajar, contrary to my recollection of closing it last time. The humming intensified beyond, carried by a gentle breeze redolent of fresh linens and summer showers. Pushing the door open with a silent glide, I found the room unchanged, yet somehow altered. The afternoon sun bathed everything in a golden glow, illuminating the delicate motifs in the wallpaper that should have long faded. My old rocking chair swayed softly by the window, unoccupied. The lace curtains billowed inward without a breath of wind. A vase of wildflowers adorned my dresser, their vibrant hues contrasting against the aged wood, the same blooms my grandmother plucked every Sunday morning. A fragrant blend of sweet peas, wild roses, and lavender perfumed the air, evoking a time long gone. Approaching the window, an unexplained certainty drew me closer, as if I were on the brink of recognizing someone familiar. The glass, spotless unlike the other panes in the house, offered a view of the rejuvenated garden below. Vibrant flowers swayed in patterns defying the natural breeze. In the glass's reflection, a figure appeared, a woman in a flowing dress, her gray hair pinned in a neat bun just like my grandmother's. Yet, when I turned, the room was empty, save for the rocking chair's gentle sway. The humming faded into a mere whisper, leaving behind a single wildflower on the cushion, its petals glistening with morning dew. Picking up the flower, its tangible presence between my fingers, the scent of lavender intensified. For a fleeting moment, a soft touch rested on my shoulder, as gentle as a fond memory. I often visit the house now, though I refrain from entering its threshold. On tranquil evenings, when the sunlight dances upon the windows, I glimpse the curtains stir. Sometimes a figure materializes, my grandmother, a youthful version of my mother, or a child resembling my own past self, playing with relics of a bygone era. The house endures, a conduit between yesteryears and the present. I ceased questioning the fresh flowers that grace the porch each Sunday morning, or the echoes of familiar laughter carried by the wind. Certain places exist in the liminal realm between memory and reality, between what was and what is. And on occasion, if fortune smiles upon us, they permit us a brief visit. Ultimately, I comprehended that the figure in the window wasn't merely observing but awaiting my return, safeguarding the memories I believed lost to time. Though the house stands vacant, I find solace in the knowledge that it will never truly be forsaken, forever preserving the essence of what once was. Story 12. In the quiet embrace of night, the small hillside town lay shrouded in a hush so profound, it felt like a velvet blanket gently settling over the cobblestone streets. Autumn's essence lingered in the air, a delicate blend of burning wood and damp leaves, while tendrils of fog slinked through the alleyways like a specter prowling in silence. From the sanctuary of my third-floor apartment, I peered out at the windows of the neighboring houses, each aglow with a soft amber light that painted the night with a warm hue. It struck me as peculiar to see so many lights ablaze at this late hour, yet behind the misty veil, no signs of life stirred within. As the church bell tolled 10 in the evening, its chime carried a hollow quality, as though the sound itself was wrapped in a cloak of cotton, muted and distant. Though I had only recently taken up residence in this enigmatic town, the desolation that now cloaked its streets was unlike anything I had witnessed before. Typically, even at this late hour, a stray soul would wander with their faithful canine companion, or the jovial banter of young bar patrons would drift through the night air as they lingered beneath the flickering streetlights. Seated in my cherished armchair, cradling a cup of chamomile tea in my hands, I observed the absence of even the familiar stray cat that often prowled Mrs. Miller's windowsill. The tendrils of steam rising from the cup wove ephemeral, ghostly shapes in the air, only to dissolve into the shadows that danced across the room. Opting to keep a solitary reading lamp aglow, its soft light casting gentle shadows upon the cream-colored walls, I was suddenly roused by a faint rustling sound echoing from the hallway that led to the bedroom. Intrigued rather than fearful, I rose from my seat, setting the cup down on the nearby wooden table. As I approached the hallway, a chill enveloped the air, not the biting sting of winter's breath, but a coolness reminiscent of ancient stone walls. The familiar creak of the hardwood floor beneath my hushed footsteps offered a peculiar comfort as I neared the threshold of the bedroom. Pausing at the door, ajar ever so slightly, a soft bluish light spilled through the crack, unlike any illumination I had known within these walls. With gentle resolve, I pushed the door open to reveal a scene both perplexing and captivating. The window, firmly shut, allowed the curtain to sway as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Nestled upon the floor beneath the window lay a solitary sheet of paper, its edges curling slightly. Drawing closer, I recognized it as a weathered newspaper page, its date boldly declaring October 15, 1954, while the headline beckoned my attention: Mysterious Night of Silence in Pine Grove. The article recounted a night when the townsfolk had retreated into their homes, bound by an unspoken pact whose origins faded into obscurity. Engrossed in the narrative, movement beyond the window tugged at my gaze. Across the street, the warm lights began to flicker and fade, extinguished one by one like candles snuffed by an unseen hand. Yet behind the darkened panes, motionless silhouettes loomed, their gaze fixed upon the empty street. A vibration in the pocket of my robe drew my attention to a message from the building's WhatsApp group. Tonight, remain indoors. It is imperative. Peering out once more, I noted that all lights had now succumbed to the darkness, save for mine. In the oppressive stillness, the cadence of my heartbeat slowed, aligning with a rhythm ancient and enigmatic. Seating myself upon the edge of the bed, the newspaper cradled in my grasp, I marveled at its exquisite softness, as though it had borne witness to untold secrets. Beyond the window, the fog thickened, enshrouding the streetlights in a luminous haze. Surveying the town's deserted thoroughfare, I pondered the tale within the article. Witnesses of that bygone night had awoken with no recollection of its events, resuming their lives as if untouched by the mysterious occurrence. Yet, sporadically, the phenomenon repeated itself, casting a veil of enigma over the town's history. Rising slowly, I made my way to the light switch, hesitating momentarily before plunging the room into darkness. A final glance through the window revealed the fog now swirling in sinuous, hypnotic patterns, as if concealing ethereal figures dancing in its midst. Settling upon the bed, still clothed, I surrendered to the profound silence, broken only by the steady ticking of the clock upon the nightstand. Drifting into slumber, a question lingered in my mind. Would I awaken with memories of this enigmatic night? Or would I, like the town's residents of yore, remain oblivious to the cyclical mystery woven into our lives? As sleep beckoned, the distant tolling of midnight bells serenaded me, their resonance muffled and otherworldly, as if echoing from a realm where silence reigned as the universal tongue of all beings. Story 13. The autumn mist draped the streets like a soft shroud, veiling each streetlight in a hazy glow under the cover of night. On my way home from a lengthy shift, I caught sight of something peculiar. A pair of headlights piercing through the mist, trailing behind me at a constant distance. It was the subtle sensation, akin to a whisper in my mind, that caught my attention. A feeling that there was something uncanny about the way that car mirrored my every move, corner after corner. The steady hum of its engine behind me mirrored a calm breath, syncing perfectly with the rhythm of my journey. Every time I slowed down, it slowed down. Every time I picked up speed, it matched my pace. Peering through the rearview mirror, all I could discern was a dark shadow, likely a sedan, its headlights resembling vigilant eyes that never strayed from me. The road meandered through the residential area, the quiet houses on either side exuding a peaceful air that sharply contrasted with my mounting unease. Opting for an experiment, I diverged from my usual route and continued straight ahead, extending my journey. And yet, the car followed suit, maintaining that mesmerizing proximity that now felt eerily familiar. The pitter-patter of rain beginning to fall on the windshield wove a soothing melody, a stark contrast to the unfolding mystery. Raindrops trickled down the glass, further obscuring my view of the unyielding presence behind me. I veered onto a side street, then another and another. The silent waltz persisted, as if an invisible thread bound us together. The headlights trailed me patiently, never encroaching too closely, never lagging behind. While the neighborhood slumbered in ignorance, we carried on with our peculiar nocturnal pas de deux. Coming to a halt at a red light, I caught a glimpse of something more through the rain-splattered windshield of the trailing car. A figure seated in the driver's seat, motionless as if carved from stone. Once I resolved to make my way home, the car remained steadfast, a shadow in tow. Pulling into my driveway and cutting the engine, a sudden stillness enveloped me, with only the drumming of rain on the car roof and the thud of my heartbeat audible. Through the rearview mirror, I watched as the car gently halted several yards back, its headlights ablaze, seemingly in anticipation. Minutes stretched into an eternity before the headlights dimmed, plunging the street into darkness, save for the silhouette of the vehicle. Summoning my courage, I stepped out into the rain, shielded by my jacket. Turning to inspect more closely, I found the street empty, devoid of the car that had trailed me for so long. Since that fateful night, every evening drive prompts me to glance at the rearview mirror more frequently than usual. And on occasions when the fog thickens, I catch a glimpse of those familiar headlights in the distance, patient and vigilant. I ponder whether that car still prowls the night, following another unwitting traveler, or if it bides its time, awaiting the opportune moment to resume our enigmatic dance through the city's nocturnal streets. Story 14. The rain softly tapped against the windows of my study, creating a soothing melody that intertwined with the crackling of the fireplace. Nestled in my cherished armchair, I gazed absent-mindedly at the new addition adorning the wall, an antique painting portraying an autumn scene. Discovered in a quaint antique shop, its warm hues and enigmatic aura had captured my attention. Despite the golden frame showing signs of age, it sparkled in the flickering firelight, casting playful reflections on the walls. That particular evening, as the storm outside grew stronger, a peculiar occurrence unfolded within the painting. The painted leaves appeared to sway gently, as if touched by an unseen breeze. Initially, I attributed it to the play of shadows from the fire, but the longer I observed, the more I discerned a subtle alteration. The colors seemed more vibrant, richer than before. The path winding through the painting, once obscured by trees, now appeared elongated and meandering, as if extending beyond the confines of the canvas. Rising slowly from my seat, I drew nearer to the painting. An unusual chill enveloped the air around it, contrasting sharply with the fireplace's warmth. Running my fingers delicately over the canvas, I encountered a texture unlike the expected roughness of an oil painting. Smooth, almost silky. A faint scent of damp earth and wet leaves wafted from the frame, so lifelike it blurred the line between reality and illusion. While pondering these peculiarities, a movement in the upper corner of the painting seized my attention. Amidst the tree branches, something stirred. Not a mere trick of light and shadow, but a deliberate motion, as though a presence lurked among the painted foliage. My heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from an escalating curiosity. Stepping back a few paces to gain a better view, I noticed the brushstrokes altering direction autonomously, crafting new paths and forms within the landscape. Trees swayed subtly, as if swayed by an invisible breeze. And in the distance, where fog once shrouded the view, the faint outline of a small structure emerged. The rain's rhythm outside transformed into a soft whisper, harmonizing with the painting's movements. Settling back into my armchair, I became wholly engrossed in the mesmerizing spectacle unfolding before me. The room expanded, deepened, as if the painting slowly breached the boundaries between realms. Throughout the night, the painting evolved gradually. Autumnal hues intensified and faded in a hypnotic cycle, unveiling shades hitherto unseen. The distant building became clearer, a stone house with a smoking chimney and windows aglow with a golden light. I pondered if inhabitants dwelled within that painted abode, and if they could perceive me, seated in my armchair, observing them through that enchanted window disguised as a painting. Strangely, the notion didn't unsettle me. Rather, it bestowed a sense of tranquility, as if I had stumbled upon a clandestine gateway where reality and fantasy melded seamlessly. Hours drifted by, and the painting divulged its mysteries patiently. At times, I fancied glimpsing figures traversing the path, while on other occasions, they dissolved into mere shadows dancing among the trees. Each time I endeavored to focus on these apparitions, they dissipated gently, akin to dream memories upon waking. As dawn tinged the sky with hues of pink, the painting gradually reverted to its original state. The leaves ceased their motion, the colors stabilized, and the distant house faded into the morning haze. Only the lingering scent of damp leaves remained in the room, a solitary reminder of the nocturnal revelations. Since then, every evening finds me perched in my armchair, gazing at the painting, awaiting patiently. At times it unveils its secrets, at others it remains silent like any ordinary artwork. Yet I am certain that beyond that canvas lies an entire realm, one that awakens only when the world slumbers, and solely for those patient enough to observe intently. Story 15. In the cozy coffee shop, whispers of conversation mingled with the comforting hum of the espresso machine. Absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone, my gaze paused on a photo that seemed to materialize out of nowhere in my gallery. It was a snapshot of my bedroom, a close-up taken from an unfamiliar angle, the foot of my bed. The image captured last night held a serene quality as I studied it intently. The soft fragrance of freshly ground coffee beans wafted around me, blending with the gentle warmth of the scene before me. My room, bathed in the soft glow of the bedside lamp, exuded a tranquil ambiance. The pale blue walls embraced the shadows cast by the gentle light, while my pristine white cotton sheets lay perfectly arranged, just as I always kept them. The wooden floorboards gleamed with a subtle sheen from the rain that had visited through my slightly ajar window, leaving delicate droplets on the sill. Sipping on lavender tea, its soothing essence seeping into my being, I delved into the mystery of the captivating image. The metadata revealed that the photo was taken at 3:17 a.m., a time when I was deeply lost in slumber. The peculiar angle at which it was captured hinted at a presence that wasn't my own, as if someone had stood at chest height, observing my room with careful precision. A collection of vintage books adorned the shelf above my bed, their spines creating a gentle rainbow of muted hues in the dim light. That evening, upon returning home, a subtle unease settled within me, amplified by the whispers of the autumn wind outside. The trees danced in rhythm, casting playful shadows on my walls as I placed my phone on the dresser, ensuring the camera faced downward. The familiar creak of the old wooden floors echoed softly as I readied myself for bed, their sounds more pronounced in the hushed atmosphere. Lying in bed, my gaze drifted to the gentle sway of the curtains in the breeze, only to notice a subtle anomaly on my bookshelf. One book, The Secret Garden, stood out, protruding slightly from its companions. It had been years since I last touched that childhood favorite, and as I stared at it, a sense of contemplation enveloped me. Had I moved it recently? Drifting into a light sleep, I was roused by the melodic sound of raindrops against my window. The digital display of my clock indicated 3:15 a.m., the room bathed in a serene blue hue from the moonlight filtering through the clouds. As I lay there, entranced by the rhythmic patter of the rain, a soft white light momentarily illuminated the ceiling, emanating from my phone screen. The following morning, greeted by the golden sunlight streaming through my window and the harmonious melodies of chirping birds, I checked my phone. Another photo, captured at 3:17 a.m., revealed my peaceful form in slumber. With a notable addition, The Secret Garden lay open on my bedside table, its pages gently ruffled as if recently perused. Subsequent nights ushered in a series of photos, each taken at the mystifying hour of 3:17 a.m. Some depicted the vacant room, while others featured my sleeping figure, all from that same enigmatic angle. The compositions were striking, a play of light and shadow reminiscent of my mother's artful photography, capturing the unnoticed moments of tranquility. Gradually, subtle changes unfolded within my room. Books shifted ever so slightly, always classics beloved by my mother. The window would be opened wider than I left it, inviting in the nocturnal breeze. The glow of my bedside lamp was adjusted to perfection, mirroring her meticulous arrangements from nights spent reading to me. One twilight, as elongated shadows danced across the floor, I found myself drawn to The Secret Garden. Opening its pages, a pressed flower emerged, a dried lavender sprig, my mother's cherished bloom. The faint fragrance lingered, mingling with the aged sweetness of the paper, evoking memories long forgotten. That night, I positioned my phone face up on the dresser, capturing the ambient lamplight through its lens. Each dawn unveiled a new photo in my gallery, taken at 3:17 a.m. I ceased questioning their origin, instead embracing the ethereal beauty of the scenes while I slumbered. The interplay of light and shadow, the subtle shifts in my room, became a source of quiet anticipation. In moments of profound stillness, under the luminous gaze of the moon, a faint scent of lavender would drift through the air, a gentle reminder of love transcending boundaries. The photos persisted, each a tender reminder that the veil between known and unknown realms is delicate. Like the threshold between sleep and wakefulness, memory and reality, present and past. In that tranquil expanse, during the tender hours of night, profound mysteries unfurled in the simplest of ways, through a lens unanticipated, capturing moments of unforeseen significance. Story 16. The gentle crackling of the fireplace enveloped the room in a cocoon of soothing warmth. By my side, my dog's fur, soft as silk, welcomed the caress of my hand as he lay with eyes half-lidded, basking in the cozy ambiance. Suddenly, a shift in his demeanor, a stiffening of his body, ears perked, breath heavy. He sprang up, his bark breaking the tranquil air, fixated on a shadowed corner of the room. Initially, I attributed it to his usual sensitivity to sounds, whether a leaf rustling against the window or a mouse scurrying in the walls. Yet this time felt different. His bark held an undertone of uncertainty, almost as if posing a question to the unseen. The flickering flames painted dancing shadows on the walls, drawing my gaze towards that darkened corner. An antique bookshelf stood there, its weathered wooden frame housing rows of books untouched by time, their spines coated in a layer of dust. Nothing seemed amiss, yet Max's unwavering stare and peculiar barks hinted at an unseen presence. A subtle chill crept into the room, defying the fireplace's comforting heat, seemingly emanating from that very corner, a pocket of winter nestled within the walls. Pulling my blanket closer, I observed as Max cautiously approached, his tail low but not tucked, a silent vigil unfolding. As night descended and I settled into my favorite armchair, Max's attention unfailingly gravitated towards that enigmatic corner. Some nights he would merely observe, every muscle tensed. Other times, a soft, inquisitive bark escaped his lips, attempting to communicate with a realm beyond my perception. Gradually, the room began to reveal its subtle alterations. Books shifted position overnight. The temperature fluctuated inexplicably, an unfamiliar sense, reminiscent of aged parchment and morning dew, wafted through the air. Rational explanations eluded me, leaving my mind to wander through a labyrinth of possibilities in the hushed stillness of the night. One evening, while immersed in a book bathed in lamplight, Max's bark pierced the silence, drawing my gaze towards the bookshelf. Dust motes swirled in defiance of gravity, coalescing into fleeting shapes that resembled cryptic symbols before dissipating into the ether. Max, sensing the unseen, emitted a soft whine, seeking solace in my touch. His presence, a grounding force, tethered me to the tangible world amidst the ethereal dance unfolding before us. I began documenting these nocturnal phenomena in a journal, noting the timestamps, temperature shifts, and Max's nuanced reactions. Patterns emerged like wisps of smoke in the night, stronger during the waning moon or the gentle patter of rain against the window panes. The displaced books always hailed from the same shelf, ancient tomes of poetry and folklore steeped in the house's history. In the liminal realm between wakefulness and slumber, glimpses of what Max perceived flickered at the edge of my consciousness. The corner appeared to stretch infinitely, shadows undulating with a fluidity that hinted at a hidden pulse. Yet, every attempt to focus directly on these spectral manifestations proved as elusive as grasping water with cupped hands. A harmonious coexistence settled over our nightly routine. Max, myself, and our unseen companion engaged in a delicate ballet of curiosity and understanding. The enigma, rather than unsettling, cloaked us in a sense of familiarity, akin to a well-loved sweater on a cool evening. As I pen these words bathed in firelight, Max dozes at my feet, his occasional ear twitch a testament to his vigilance. The bookshelf looms in the corner, its shadows concealing enigmas that may forever elude comprehension. Yet the bond forged in this twilight dance with the unknown has become a cherished part of our existence. The crackling fire casts its warm glow, illuminating the room in a soft embrace. Max's rhythmic breathing lulls me into a state of tranquility, his presence a steadfast anchor in the sea of mysteries that encircle us. In the corner, shadows deepen with the onset of night, cradling ancient whispers within their embrace. Perhaps, in those fleeting heartbeats between moments, understanding blossoms not from sight, but from the silent whispers of the soul, guiding us through the veiled realms of the unseen. Story 17. The rain softly tapped against the windows of my aged country home, cracking crafting a mesmerizing melody that intertwined with the gentle creaking of the hardwood floor below me. It was a night in autumn when the line between reality and fantasy blurred, the tree leaves swaying in the darkness, casting ever-shifting shadows on the cream walls through foggy windows. Nestled in my beloved armchair, holding a cup of chamomile tea now gone cold, I absent-mindedly watched as the light from the floor lamp formed a golden circle on the ground. A peculiar sensation lingered in the air that evening, subtle yet insistent, eluding my grasp. Perhaps it was the heaviness of the air or the profound silence that enveloped the house, almost palpable. I rose slowly, compelled by a flicker caught in my peripheral vision. The hallway leading to the bedrooms appeared elongated, stretching beyond its usual limits. The shadows in the corners seemed denser, alive almost, as I halted at the threshold of the living room, peering into the deepening darkness ahead. With each step, the temperature dropped, the floor emitting unfamiliar sounds beneath my feet. The family portraits on the walls seemed to gaze at me with altered expressions, faces slightly distorted from memory. Halfway down the hallway, a peculiar scent wafted through the air, reminiscent of ancient books and damp wood foreign to my home. Turning to the window on my right, raindrops had sketched intricate patterns on the glass, following a cryptic design, and there it was, a shadow darker than the rest, gliding with unnatural elegance along the opposite wall. It bore no source, possessing a solidity as if made of condensed mist. Moving gracefully, almost hesitantly, it seemed aware of my presence. My breath deepened as I watched, not fear, but a curious sense of recognition washing over me, as if this presence had always lingered, waiting to be acknowledged. The shadow paused by the guest room door, taking on a faintly humanoid shape. Drawing closer, the shadow reacted to my approach, wavering slightly, as the rain's whisper turned into a constant murmur, attempting to convey a message. Straining my ears, I almost discerned words in an unknown yet oddly understandable language. The air chilled, though not unpleasantly so, a soothing coolness enveloping me like silk on a summer night. The shadow began to move towards me in a fluid motion akin to a slow dance. Motionless, I watched as it neared, halting a few steps away. Amidst the house's silence, my heartbeat sounded steady and calm. The shadow inclined slightly, a gesture resembling a greeting. Raising my hand on impulse, the shadow mirrored my movement, a hand materializing momentarily from its misty form. No physical contact occurred, yet a warmth tingled where our hands almost met. Then, with graceful dissipation, the shadow dispersed like smoke carried by an unseen breeze, leaving a subtle hint of jasmine and profound tranquility in its wake. Staying in the hallway for what felt like eternity, I listened to the rain's fading cadence. Returning to the living room, I found my tea still warm, as if time had paused during our encounter. Since that eve on rainy nights, I tread the hallway with heightened awareness, glimpsing at times the familiar form dancing at the edge of perception. The mystery of the shadow remains unsolved, yet its presence left not unease, but an acceptance of enigmas without answers. The hallway now holds this secret, and on quiet nights when rain taps on the windows, I await, a blend of curiosity and peace, for another rendezvous with the shadow that dances beyond the hallway. Story 18. The bathroom was filled with steam, a cozy veil left by my shower as I extended my hand towards the mirror to dispel the fog. In the moment, the glass cleared, a gasp escaped my lips. There, etched in a vivid red stain, were words that had not been there before. "I'm watching you." Initially gripped by a shiver of fear, it swiftly gave way to a profound curiosity as I observed an intriguing quality about the writing. The red substance possessed a pearlescent essence, transitioning between hues of crimson and blush as the lingering steam swirled around it. I found myself captivated by its gentle glimmer, akin to witnessing the soft caress of sunset light dancing upon rippling water. The rain outside tapped lightly against the bathroom window, providing a soothing accompaniment as I delved into the enigmatic message. The drops crafted intricate patterns on the glass, their tranquil rhythm harmonizing with my steady heartbeat. A distant rumble of thunder murmured, not as a threat, but as a comforting murmur, as if nature itself was divulging secrets. Tracing my fingers over the mirror's surface, I expected to feel the raised texture of the substance used to inscribe the message. Yet, my touch encountered only smooth glass. The writing seemed to exist beneath the surface, as though it had seamlessly melded with the mirror itself. The longer I gazed, the more it resembled frost patterns forming on a winter window in reverse, emerging from within rather than without. The lingering scent of lavender from my shower gel intertwined with the earthy petrichor wafting in through the slightly ajar window. Wisps of steam continued to waltz along the mirror's edges, forming an ever-shifting frame for the cryptic message. The warm humidity enveloped me like a comforting embrace, casting a dreamlike aura over the peculiar situation. Bathed in the gentle glow of the bathroom light, I discerned another detail. Almost imperceptible symbols seemed concealed within the strokes of each letter, reminiscent of ancient script. Yet whenever I attempted to focus on a specific mark, it elusively shifted and morphed, akin to grasping at wisps of smoke. The effect was mesmerizing, drawing me deeper into contemplation. The old house creaked softly around me, its wooden framework settling in the rain. Rather than evoking alarm, these sounds offered a sense of familiarity, a reassuring presence in this moment of mystery. The wooden floor beneath my feet retained a comforting warmth from the heating below, grounding me in the present even as my thoughts wandered through the realms of possibility. In that moment, time seemed to flow differently. The red writing began to pulse subtly, akin to a distant heartbeat. Not glaring or intrusive, but rather like observing a candle flame flicker gently in a dim room. The rhythm synchronized with the falling rain, orchestrating a harmonious symphony of visual and auditory sensations. I found myself swaying slightly, entranced by the seamless fusion of elements around me. The rain persisted in its gentle percussion, the house contributed its occasional creaks, and the mirror safeguarded its enigma. Even the air seemed imbued with weight and presence, carrying the mingled scents of lavender, rain, and a hint of something ancient and mysterious, reminiscent of aged paper or antique wood. Days slipped by, yet the message endured. It neither faded nor altered, yet appeared subtly different when viewed at varying times. In the morning light, it seemed almost playful, akin to a child's creation. Under the moon's soft glow, it emanated an ethereal quality, seeming to hover just beyond the glass. During storms, it appeared to quiver with the flashes of lightning, though I could never quite discern if my eyes played tricks on me. Despite the ominous words, I never felt threatened by the message. Instead, it became a meditative focal point, a daily prompt that reality harbored more mysteries than we typically acknowledge. At times when sleep eluded me, I found myself drawn to the bathroom, observing the moonlight's dance upon the mirror's surface, allowing my mind to drift in the serene uncertainty. Most intriguing was the way the message seemed to respond to music. When soft classical melodies filled the evening air, the red writing appeared to pulse in unity with the harmonies. The effect was so subtle that I often questioned whether I truly saw it or merely imagined it. Yet, on tranquil nights, when the house lay silent and my mind was at peace, I could swear the writing swayed to the music that permeated the atmosphere. I kept the message to myself, sensing it as a private exchange between me and the mysterious force reaching out through the mirror. Some mysteries, I realized, are not meant to be unraveled or shared. They exist solely to remind us that wonder lingers in the world, concealed within the steam of a morning shower or the reflection of a midnight moon. The message endures unchanged, a constant presence in my daily routine. Sometimes I glimpse movement in the mirror beyond the writing, a a fleeting shadow, or a momentary distortion in the glass. Yet it vanishes before I can focus on it, akin to trying to recollect the details of a dream upon waking. And somehow, that feels fitting. With time, I have grown to appreciate the unknown. The message serves as a gentle nudge that certain inquiries hold more value in their ambiguity, that mystery itself can offer solace. Each morning, as the mirror fogs and then clears to unveil those red words, I find peace in accepting that some aspects of life are destined to elude our comprehension, observing us as we observe them in return. Story 19. The tranquil rhythm of the waves caressed the shore as I strolled along the beach, the air brimming with the tang of salt and the crispness of the sea. Amid the sand, a glint caught my eye, a weathered glass bottle, partially buried, its contents sealed within. With gentle anticipation, I unearthed it, revealing a rolled-up parchment nestled inside. As I uncorked the vessel, a sense of intrigue enveloped me. The script upon the aged paper was a work of art, scripted in a rich blue hue, addressing me as "My dearest Sarah." A chill danced down my spine. Sarah was indeed my name, yet a peculiar unease lingered in the air. The date on the letter indicated a mere 2 days past, while the bottle bore the markings of time and the sea's embrace. Seating myself upon the cool sand, I gazed at the horizon where the sun dipped, painting the sky in soft hues of lavender and rose. The missive continued to unravel its enigmatic tale. I reach out to you from the threads of time itself. Each night, under the moon's gentle caress upon the waters, I witness your solitary walks along this very shore, though my presence remains unseen to you. The keeper of the lighthouse divulged the secrets of temporal tides, moments when past and present intertwine like watercolors blending seamlessly. A whisper of wind weaved through the dunes, stirring a delicate shiver within me. Drawing my light sweater closer, I inhaled the mingling scents of sea salt and sweet beach roses, carried on the breeze. The parchment quivered in my grasp as I delved further into its ethereal narrative. I observe your ritual of collecting seashells at eventide, tenderly placing them within your wooden chest. I recognize the box as belonging to your grandmother, evidenced by the butterfly motifs etched upon its lid. Yet Sarah, in my era, that very chest is encased within museum glass, a relic from a woman who washed ashore during the tempestuous storm of 1922. With each word, my heart found a tranquil cadence, aligning with the symphony of the sea. Beside me rested the wooden box, etched with the delicate imprints of butterflies, a legacy passed through generations. However, historical accounts within the Maritime Museum claimed my grandmother acquired it from an antique establishment in 1960. The epistle divulged intimate details of my life, minutiae known only to me, a talismanic touch upon the third post of the pier, whispered words to the soaring seabirds, and the hidden scar upon my left palm from a childhood mishap, a secret never shared. Beneath the waning sun's glow, casting elongated shadows across the shore, I discerned a peculiar phenomenon within the glass vessel. Its form seemed to flux and transmute with the fading light, oscillating between pristine novelty and the patina of antiquity, existing within multiple temporal states concurrently. The closing paragraph sent a ripple of anticipation through me. I am certain you will discover this correspondence today, Sarah, for I witnessed your unearthing of it. In 1922, I stood upon this very beach, gazing at you through the veil of time with crystal clarity, much like the steadfast beacon of the lighthouse on the distant horizon. Yet, I scribe not to forewarn of the impending storm, nor to alter the fate of the other Sarah with her butterfly emblazoned chest. I write to illuminate your connection to a grander design, a motif that ebbs and flows like the eternal dance of the shore's waves, resplendent and unending. Though the signature bore only the smudged imprint of the name Sarah, a kinship resonated within me. Raising my gaze from the parchment, the beach had transformed under the cloak of twilight. a silent fog enveloping the landscape in a mysterious embrace. In the distance, the lighthouse's beam pierced through the mist, its luminance flickering between electric brilliance and the warm glow of oil lamps. A subtle shift lingered in the air, a choice awaiting my decision. The letter left the fate of the 1922 Sarah ambiguous, save for her discovery with the butterfly-adorned chest. Perhaps the future was not fixed but fluid, akin to the temporal tides whispered by the keeper of the light. Approaching the water's edge, the waves lapped gently at my feet, the mist swirling around me in a spectral dance. A fleeting vision grazed my sight, a woman in antiquated attire further down the shore, collecting seashells in a wooden box graced with butterflies. Yet, as swiftly as she appeared, she vanished into the enigmatic haze. Retrieving a notebook from my bag, I tore a page and with deliberate strokes began to inscribe, "My dearest Sarah." The fog thickened as my pen traced the words upon the paper, and in the distance, a bell buoy tolled softly, its reverberations echoing through the corridors of time like ripples upon a tranquil pond. Story 20. The grandfather clock in my study announced midnight with its deep, familiar resonance, each chime rippling through the still air like gentle waves on a serene pond. Nestled in my leather armchair, an old book lay open on my lap, while the soft patter of rain danced against the window panes. The house, with its aged wooden structure, whispered softly as it settled into the hush of the night. My gaze wandered to the hallway door, its dark wooden frame illuminated by the warm glow of my reading lamp. There was a subtle difference tonight, a shift I couldn't quite pinpoint. Perhaps the brass handle caught the light in a new way, or maybe the wood's grain appeared altered. Despite living in this house for 15 years, the door now felt strangely unfamiliar. Standing up, I carefully marked my place in the book with a silk ribbon. As I approached the door, a chill seemed to seep into the air, enveloping me in a wintry embrace. The handle, usually cool to the touch, now felt unexpectedly warm, a stark contrast to the surrounding coolness. With a gentle push, the door swung open, revealing the unchanging hallway beyond. The same wallpaper, the same carpet, the same photographs adorned the walls. Closing the door, I chuckled at my own imagination, attributing the odd feeling to the late hour. That night, my dreams were filled with doors, appearing and vanishing in improbable places, each bearing a brass handle that radiated warmth amidst their surreal surroundings. In the light of the following evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I noticed a peculiar transformation in the door. Its color had lightened, as if time had aged it overnight. The brass handle now bore a patina that hadn't been there before. Intrigued, I scrutinized the door, noting the subtle changes in the wood grain and the shift in the hue of the hinges. Night after night, the door underwent quiet metamorphoses, sometimes aging, sometimes rejuvenating. The handle would subtly alter its position, and the frame would gain or lose intricate carvings. Yet the hallway beyond remained constant. I began documenting these changes in a journal, capturing each shift through meticulous sketches and detailed descriptions. The door never changed in my presence. It was during the darkest hours of the night, when the house slumbered and my attention wandered, that the door's alterations took place. One evening, determined to unravel the mystery, I decided to keep vigil and observe the door through the night. Positioned in my armchair facing the door, I brewed a pot of strong tea to keep me alert. As the hours ticked by, my eyelids grew heavy, but I remained resolute. At precisely 3:17 a.m., a flicker of the lights and a subtle shift in the room's atmosphere heralded a new transformation of the door. The warm oak had transformed into rich mahogany, with delicate silver inlays that seemed to dance on its surface. Drawn to this newfound beauty, I reached for the handle, now crafted from crystal, but a strange vibration in the air gave me pause. And then the realization struck me. The door had no keyhole, not now or ever in any of its forms. Puzzled, I scoured my journal for any mention of the keyhole, only to find none. Had I overlooked such a fundamental detail, or was something more mysterious at play? The question lingered on the edge of my thoughts, like a forgotten melody. Now, as the shadows lengthen in my study each evening, I ponder the enigmatic door and its nightly transformations. Sometimes, I glimpse other hallways beyond, with different decor and photographs. But upon opening the door, it always leads back to my hallway. I've entertained the idea of rearranging the photographs, testing the reality of my surroundings. Yet, a quiet intuition restrains me, a whisper of caution that dissuades me from delving too deeply into the unknown spaces between perception and truth. The door continues to change, each night unveiling a new guise. I've come to accept its silent evolution, even finding a strange comfort in its shifting nature. Perhaps it is not the door that changes, but rather my perception of it with each passing night. Or maybe both are true, or neither. As the grandfather clock tolls midnight and the rain taps a gentle melody against the window, I eagerly anticipate the unveiling of the door's next transformation and the mysteries it may choose to disclose or conceal in the tranquil hours before dawn. Story 21. The gentle symphony of raindrops on the roof played a soothing melody, enveloping me in a tranquil embrace as I settled into another solitary evening within the walls of my rustic country abode. The drops traced intricate patterns on the window glass, their movements a graceful dance illuminated by the flickering candlelight that pushed back the encroaching darkness. Outside, the wind whispered through the garden trees, rustling the leaves in a natural lullaby that serenaded the night. Nestled in my beloved armchair, cradling a cup of steaming tea, I watched as wisps of vapor spiraled elegantly into the air, lost in contemplation. Amidst the familiar sounds of the house, the soft creak of aging wood, the rhythmic ticking of the hallway clock, the faint whistle of wind weaving through unseen crevices, an indefinable unease began to stir within me. It was a subtle shift, imperceptible yet undeniable, disrupting the tranquility of the evening. And it was while I savored the warmth of my tea that I caught sight of something out of place. In the mirror's reflection, the window of the upstairs bedroom glowed with an otherworldly light, as though a phantom candle flickered within its confines. Yet I knew with certainty that no source of illumination resided in that room. Setting down my cup with deliberate care, I rose from my seat and made my way towards the staircase, each step groaning beneath my weight, a familiar echo of years spent in this old house. But that night, each creak seemed to carry a hidden message, a whispered secret from the ancient walls themselves. The air grew colder as I ascended, a thin veil of moisture clinging to the walls of the upper hallway, lending an eerie atmosphere to the darkness. Standing before the bedroom door, I hesitated, a shiver coursing through me as I reached for the icy brass handle. With a soft squeak, the door swung open, revealing a room cloaked in shadows. The window, the same one that had beckoned to me from the mirror, sat tightly closed. Yet, as I watched in astonishment, the lock began to shift of its own accord, the window inching open without any visible force behind its movement. The gentle rain that trickled in carried with it a scent of bygone days, of dried flowers and ancient wood, wrapping the room in a cloak of nostalgia and mystery. Drawing closer, I observed the raindrops pirouette through the air, defying gravity as they formed intricate patterns before alighting on the floor in hushed reverence. And then, a marvel unfolded before my eyes. Invisible hands seemed to etch words upon the misted glass, a language unknown, a message unreadable yet profound in its mystery. The curtains stirred, a phantom breath moving through the room, their dance a silent echo of slumbering spirits. Moonlight filtered through rain-laden clouds, casting ethereal shadows that wove tales upon the walls, stories untold yet deeply felt. Reaching out a hand, I felt the chill of the outside world caress my fingertips as I neared the window, drawn to the enigma unfolding before me. And just as I was on the verge of making contact, the window closed with a soft sigh, the lock clicking into place, dispersing the ancient fragrance that had lingered in the air. Motionless, I stood, enveloped in the gentle patter of rain outside, the room now restored to its former state. Yet a shift had occurred, a subtle unveiling of the hidden mysteries that dwelled within these ancient walls. It was as though the house itself had sought to reveal a glimpse of a parallel realm, a world veiled from mortal eyes save for those fleeting moments when reality and enigma intertwined like threads of silk. Since that fateful night, whenever rain graced the earth, I would find myself ensconced in my armchair, gazing at the window's reflection in the hallway mirror. Sometimes it remained still, a silent sentinel in the night. Other times, it would open slowly, a ritual of quiet reverence that had woven itself into the fabric of my existence. The origin of this phenomenon eluded me, a mystery unsolved yet accepted as a sacred bond between myself and the ancient soul of this house. And on the stillest of nights, when the wind murmured secrets to the trees and the rain fell in a gentle cadence, I would sense a presence, unseen yet ever present, a guardian spirit that had chosen to share this space with me, manifesting through a window that opened of its own accord. Story 22. The night had enveloped the house in a cocoon of profound quietness, broken only by the soft tap of raindrops on the window panes. Nestled in my cherished armchair, I observed the shadows waltz across the walls, in perfect harmony with the flickering firelight. The comforting warmth wrapped around me like a snug quilt, while the fragrance of burning wood mingled with the delicate scent of vanilla tea cupped in my hands. It was in this moment of absolute tranquility that a peculiar sight caught my eye in my niece's playroom, peeking through the slightly open door. An ancient porcelain music box, a keepsake from Grandma, seemed to emit a faint bluish shimmer. I couldn't recall ever seeing it glow in such a manner before. Slowly, I stood up from the armchair, placing the teacup on the wooden side table. Each step I took across the floor produced a gentle creak that blended seamlessly with the rain's rhythm, weaving an almost hypnotic tune. Drawing nearer to the door, the glow intensified yet remained gentle, akin to moonbeams caressing calm waters. The toy room served as a haven for reminiscences and enchantment. Weathered wooden shelves housed Victorian-clad porcelain dolls, vibrant toy trains, and plush animals with gentle gazes. The music box occupied a special spot on the central shelf, encircled by tiny crystals my niece had gathered from the garden during her strolls. The porcelain ballerina adorning the music box, typically frozen in her eternal pose, swayed ever so slightly, as though brushed by an unseen zephyr. Moving closer, I noticed the room's temperature was noticeably cooler than the rest of the house. Wisps of vapor escaped with each breath I exhaled, while the crystals surrounding the music box seemed to interact with its light, casting miniature rainbows on the walls. The ballerina continued her subtle motions, and I could almost discern a faint melody in the distance, a musical whisper from a bygone era. Extending my hand toward the music box, the blue light pulsed gently at that precise moment. The other dolls on the shelf seemed to have turned their heads slightly to gaze in my direction, but upon blinking, they reverted to their original positions. The melody grew clearer. It was Grandma's cherished lullaby, a tune I had thought faded from memory. The music box commenced its own slow rotation. The ballerina pirouetted with an unearthly grace, her movements fluid like those of a true dancer. The crystals now cast intricate patterns on the ceiling, weaving designs that seemed to narrate tales of eras long past. The room grew heavy with recollections, as though time itself had condensed around this small enchanted object. I stood transfixed, entranced by the spectacle before me. The music box's melody intertwined with the rain's symphony, speaking of yearning and veiled mysteries. The shadows in the room appeared to sway to the music's beat, and for an instant, I felt as though I had company in witnessing this private exhibition. Slowly, the melody began to fade, like a fleeting dream slipping away upon awakening. The blue glow of the music box dimmed to a faint shimmer, and the ballerina's dance slowed until she stilled completely. Silence settled back into the room, yet it was a different hush, one laden with significance and enigma. Returning to my armchair, I picked up my now tepid tea. While gazing at the dwindling embers in the fireplace, I pondered Grandma and her affection for objects steeped in tales. I mused on whether she had encountered something akin to this, whether the music box had always held that magic, or if it was a unique gift meant for specific moments and select observers. Ever since that night, whenever I pass by the toy room, I steal a glance at the music box. At times I fancy catching a fleeting blue glimmer or hearing the initial notes of that forgotten lullaby. But perhaps it's merely memories pirouetting in my mind, like that porcelain ballerina on that rainy eve. Story 23. The house lay hushed, wrapped in the gentle embrace of the night. I found myself in the living room, immersed in a book, when it happened. A whisper, my name, drifting softly from the kitchen. My heart quickened its pace as I rose from my seat. Yet as I ventured forth, the kitchen stood empty, devoid of any presence besides my own. For 3 days, solitude had been my only companion within these walls. The autumn rain persisted outside, its rhythmic patter casting a soothing spell over the quiet abode. The aged wooden floor murmured beneath my wool-clad feet as I treaded cautiously towards the source of the mysterious call. The kitchen basked in a dim, ethereal glow filtering through rain-kissed windows. Every detail remained unchanged, the half-filled teacup resting on the counter, wisps of steam still dancing above its surface, the dishcloth hanging lazily off the oven handle, the antique clock ticking away time with unwavering certainty. And yet an uncanny shift lingered in the air, thickening it with an unspoken presence. I traced my fingers along the cool granite countertop, seeking solace in its steadfast solidity. Though reason whispered of tricks played by old houses settling and pipes aging, the way my name had been uttered lingered in my mind. Gentle, intimate, like a secret shared for my ears alone. The rain outside swelled, a melodic symphony against the window panes. Mesmerized, I gazed out at the trails of water racing down the glass, each droplet capturing a glint of light, scattering prisms across the surface. And there, in my reflection, a subtle wrongness flickered, a delayed blink, a fraction out of sync with reality. Startled, I recoiled, brushing against the copper wind chimes hanging still in the window. Their silence echoed louder than any sound. I reached out, fingers meeting icy metal, unnaturally cold to the touch. That night, a newfound awareness enveloped me as I traversed the familiar corridors of the house. Shadows deepened, silences whispered untold secrets. I noticed subtle disturbances, a book askew on its shelf, frames tilted at unfamiliar angles, rooms altered in my absence. When night descended, the rain's curtain finally closed, leaving behind a profound silence. Nestled in my favorite chair, enveloped in a cozy blanket, I embraced the quietude. The darkness outside pressed against the windows, while the warm lamplight created a haven of tranquility around me. And once more the call came, my name drifting from upstairs. Clearer now, tinged with an elusive emotion. Not fear, but a longing, a beckoning from afar. Drawn by an unseen force, I ascended the stairs, each step a paradox of weight and weightlessness. The carpet hushed my footfalls, cocooning me in a veil of silence trailing along. At the top I paused, hand resting upon the polished banister. Moonlight bathed the hallway in its soft glow, casting elongated shadows through the windows. A subtle shift in the air alerted me to a gaze unseen, a presence benign yet watchful. In the guest room, my old music box lay open upon the dresser, a relic from years past. As I drew near, the mirror above reflected not my image but a bygone era, curtains swaying in a breeze long faded. Entranced, I watched as the vision gradually merged with the present reality. That night, as sleep beckoned, a revelation dawned upon me, an understanding of the house, of reality's intricate tapestry. The voice that called my name sought not to unsettle but to reveal, to unveil the delicate junctures where time and memory wove a shared existence. The identity of the caller remained a mystery, yet fear gave way to curiosity. Now, when my name echoes through empty spaces, I greet it with a smile, sometimes even a reply. The voice answers not in words but in subtle gestures. A book opened to a poignant page, a photo turned to catch the light, or the soft chime of my grandmother's wind bells in a room devoid of wind. The enigma endures, a familiar enigma, akin to a cherished sweater on a cool eve. Some questions require no answers, some entities no understanding, only acceptance. In the twilight realm where light dances with shadow and time bends to its own rhythm, I await that familiar call, guiding me home to a place never truly departed. Story 24. The ancient mirror hung on my wall, a weighty relic of bygone days, its ornate gold frame dulled by the passage of time. But peering into its depths revealed more than mere reflections. A mysterious figure stood beside me, an enigmatic presence I couldn't quite place. Initially, I dismissed it as a trick of the fading twilight, a ghostly apparition conjured by the play of shadows. The figure appeared ethereal, like a blurred watercolor painting left out in the rain, hovering just beyond my left shoulder with soft, indistinct features. Turning away, I found emptiness where the figure should have been. Yet, upon returning my gaze to the mirror, there they remained, observing me with a curiosity that mirrored my own. This enigmatic mirror had beckoned to me from the dusty confines of a quaint antique shop, nestled among forgotten treasures and layers of time-worn memories. The shopkeeper's knowledge of its origins was scant, mentioning only its acquisition from an estate sale at a grand manor house. Despite its storied past, the price was surprisingly modest for such a captivating piece, its aged elegance drawing me inexorably closer. I found myself drawn to the mirror, captivated by the way light danced upon its slightly warped surface, creating mesmerizing ripples in the reflections. In the hushed moments of early dawn and twilight's embrace, I would sit before it, transfixed as the mysterious figure gradually materialized before my eyes. Clad in attire of a bygone era, a high collar, long sleeves, an ornate brooch adorning their throat, they exuded an aura of wistful melancholy, as if suspended in eternal anticipation. As days turned into weeks, subtle shifts began to manifest within the mirror's reflection. Objects appeared altered from their physical counterparts, a book left open instead of closed, a cup displaced from one surface to another. Yet the figure remained a constant presence, their world evolving in intriguing, imperceptible ways. On a particularly tranquil evening, rain pattering against my window panes like a soothing lullaby, a new development unfolded before me. The figure drew nearer to their side of the mirror, revealing eyes brimming with a wisdom that transcended our shared reality. Their outstretched hand pressed against the glass, beckoning me to reciprocate. Without hesitation, I mirrored their gesture, feeling a subtle vibration beneath my fingertips, as if a distant chime resonated through the room. A palpable sense of potentiality suffused the air, infused with the scent of lavender and aged parchment, though neither lingered in my surroundings. The following morn, a weathered envelope materialized on my dresser, its contents a sepia-toned photograph depicting a woman mirroring the figure's stance within the mirror. The woman bore a striking resemblance to my ethereal companion, bridging the gap between past and present in a hauntingly beautiful synchronicity. Each evening thereafter, I communed with my spectral confidant, sharing the stillness with whispered musings and silent contemplations. Whether my words traversed the ethereal threshold separating us remained a mystery, yet the connection felt palpable, transcending the bounds of conventional understanding. Despite exhaustive inquiries into the manor house's history, ownership records, and archival photographs, the identity of my mirror companion eluded definitive resolution. Some enigmas, it seemed, were destined to be savored rather than solved, akin to the delicate descent of snowflakes or the dance of moonlit shadows upon walls. The figure lingered in that nebulous realm between wakefulness and reverie, a source of solace and wonder amidst life's uncertainties. Their presence, neither wholly tangible nor wholly ethereal, became a constant in my days, a reassuring presence akin to the unerring cadence of time's passage. Though the temptation to seek validation through expert authentication tugged at my thoughts, a quiet intuition held me back. There existed a subtle magic in embracing the unknown, in allowing the mystery to endure unbound by empirical constraints. The mirror had transcended its mere function as a piece of decor, morphing into a portal of introspection, a testament to the fluidity of existence itself. As I pen these reflections, the figure gazes back at me from the mirror's surface, their expression one of patient intrigue that mirrors my own. In their silent vigil, I find a serenity born of embracing the enigmatic, a tranquility nestled within the gentle mysteries that permeate our world. And though the full truth may forever elude my grasp, I take solace in the whispered secrets shared between myself and the enigmatic figure in the mirror, a silent dialogue that transcends the confines of comprehension. Story 25. In the hushed stillness of the night, the scent of aged wood wafted through the hallway as I bid farewell to the day's light. The house embraced a tranquil silence, its very foundation murmuring beneath the weight of my footsteps. Just as I neared the sanctuary of my bedroom, a lingering sound halted me in my tracks. A slow, deliberate creak that seemed to traverse the distance between reality and mystery. My gaze shifted, drawn to the attic door standing ajar, a silent invitation into the unknown. The heavy door bore the marks of time, a weathered facade hinting at untold secrets nestled within its ancient grain. Usually, instinct would have urged me to shut it tight, yet an unseen force tethered me in place, an insatiable curiosity that coiled around my mind like tendrils of mist. The darkness beyond the threshold held a peculiar allure, not shrouded in impenetrable blackness but bathed in a soft, ethereal glow, as moonbeams painted delicate patterns upon the unseen canvas of the attic's interior. My hand extended tentatively, seeking communion with the cool, worn surface of the door, a surface etched with the whispers of bygone years. Each brush of my fingertips evoked fleeting memories, echoes of lives long past, creating a tapestry of forgotten moments and lost whispers. One step led to another, the floorboards beneath me protesting with a gentle murmur, a melodic harmony that resonated with the spirits of the house. Recollections of my grandmother's tales drifted through my thoughts, her words weaving a tapestry of houses that retained memories, spaces that transcended mere physicality. A soft breeze caressed my skin, neither chilling nor warm, but steeped in anticipation, as though the very air held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Unbeknownst to myself, I had crossed the threshold, drawn inexorably into the enigmatic heart of the attic. The room unveiled itself in the moon's gentle embrace, a solitary window casting a luminous halo upon the wooden floor, stirring motes of dust into a delicate waltz. Shapes materialized from the shadows, forgotten relics of a bygone era, their forms pregnant with untold narratives. Yet it was the small wooden chair bathed in moonlight that beckoned to me, its placement deliberate, as if awaiting the return of a presence that had just vacated its seat. I approached with cautious reverence, the chair's ancient wood bearing the weight of time with a grace that belied its age. A faint disturbance in the layer of dust hinted at recent occupancy, a phantom imprint whispering of a departure moments before my arrival. The silence enveloped me, pregnant with unseen watchers, their presence palpable in the stillness that thrummed with life. My fingers traced the contours of the chair, a fleeting memory brushing against my consciousness, a sensation both familiar and foreign, like a half-remembered dream slipping through the veil of waking. In the distance, an owl's mournful cry pierced the night, sending ripples through the attic, coaxing the dust motes into a spectral ballet. For an ephemeral moment, the moonlight seemed to shift, crafting elusive patterns that teased recognition before dissipating into obscurity. Yet, a knowing settled within me, unspoken yet profound. I was not alone, though the company felt not of this world. It was a presence, gentle and all-encompassing, intertwined with the essence of the space itself. The chair stood sentinel, the moonlight a silent witness to the communion of souls that transcended the boundaries of understanding. In the twilight realm where reality and imagination converged, I stood as a witness, a conduit for the stories woven into the very fabric of the room. And in that sacred moment, amidst the whispers of the past and the mysteries of the present, I understood that some enigmas were not meant to be unraveled, but to be embraced, to be felt in the depths of the soul, remembered in the quiet recesses of the mind, where truth and fantasy meld into something transcendent and eternal. Thus, I remained rooted in that ethereal space, a part of its narrative, a keeper of its secrets, breathing in harmony with the unseen forces that bound us together in a dance of shadows and light. Story 26. The soft mattress cradled me, the duvet cocooning my weary body. A faint light seeped through the curtains, while the clock's ticking offered a steady cadence. Inhaling the clean scent of freshly laundered sheets, I surrendered to exhaustion. Then, a subtle rustle disrupted the tranquility. A sound too close for comfort, originating from beneath the bed. Motionless, I regulated my breath, a skill honed from years of solitary living, urging caution at every unfamiliar noise. Yet this disturbance felt distinct, not the usual creaking of floorboards or the gentle sigh of the breeze. It held a tangible weight, thickening the air around me. Despite the intrusion, the bedroom retained its familiar embrace. Shadows danced across the walls, painted by the streetlight's glow outside. My cherished collection of aged books stood sentinel on the shelves, their spines creating a mosaic of muted hues in the dimness. The vintage alarm clock's ticking, usually a lullaby, now served as a marker of my escalating awareness. Another sound, barely audible, followed, a deliberate inhalation, not my own, accompanied by an exhale carrying a hint of mint and something primal, like damp earth post-rain. My fingers curled into the sheets, not out of fear, but contemplation. Though reason suggested rational explanations, perhaps the heating system or a stray creature, my primal instincts disagreed. Inch by inch, my hand glided to the mattress's edge, not to investigate visually, but to sense. The space below felt cooler, expectedly so, yet possessed an unusual density, akin to submerging one's hand in water. The sensation evoked memories of childhood swims, of peering underwater to glimpse shapes simultaneously solid and fluid. Time unfolded with peculiar elasticity. The clock maintained its steadfast tempo, yet minutes ebbed and flowed like shadows at dusk. I teetered between wakefulness and a near meditative state, attuned to every subtle sound and shift in the atmosphere. The presence below lingered, neither menacing nor benign, merely existing alongside my consciousness. Throughout the night, nuanced details surfaced, imperceptible in a heightened state of anxiety. Whispers of floral fragrances, akin to night-blooming jasmine, wafted through the air around my outstretched hand. Occasionally, a soft tapping, reminiscent of fingers drumming on wood, resonated with an eerie echo, as though emanating from a distant well. As dawn approached, the darkness morphed. The street lamp's glow surrendered to the pale light of dawn, heralding a shift in the subterranean ambience. The enigmatic presence seemed to retreat, akin to waves receding from the shore, yet leaving an intangible residue. A sensation of coexisting with an alien consciousness, governed by enigmatic rules, lingered. Summoning courage, I peered beneath the bed as the morning light bathed the room, revealing naught but dust and shadows. However, the space appeared expanded, its depth seemingly bottomless, and the floor exuded a residual warmth at odds with the morning chill. Etched faintly on the farthest floorboard, amidst the twilight's glow, a pristine handprint, smaller than mine, glistened not with dust, but what resembled morning dew. I refrained from erasing it. Certain mysteries merit preservation, occupying the serene realm between reality and fantasy. Each night, as I nestle in bed, the sounds below adopt a companionable quality. The gentle rustle, the hushed breaths, the sporadic whispers of movement, they have grown familiar. I've come to comprehend that not all mysteries warrant dread. Some serve to remind us of the boundless, inexplicable wonders of the world. The handprint reemerges each morning, unfailingly in its designated spot, adorned with fresh dew. I no longer strive to decipher its origin, just as I've ceased attempting to unravel why my slumber has deepened beyond measure. Some enigmas are best left unexplored, as delicate riddles hovering between wakefulness and reverie, where the boundary between knowledge and intuition blurs beautifully. Story 27. The day had been a long and tiring one, leaving the house enveloped in a deep silence, broken only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Sinking into the plushness of the couch, I absent-mindedly glanced at my phone, only to feel it vibrate in my hand. One ring, then another, and I saw my own name flashing on the screen. Curiosity nudged at me, akin to noticing a strange shadow in a familiar room. The soft evening light filtered through the curtains, painting delicate patterns on the wooden floor. The phone continued its rhythmic dance of vibration against the coffee table, the air in the room taking on a denser quality, a presence that was almost palpable. Above me, the ceiling fan whirred softly, its steady hum syncing with the gradual slowing of my heartbeat. As my gaze lingered on the screen displaying my own contact information and photo, I finally mustered the courage to answer the call. A soft, atmospheric static greeted me, reminiscent of the whispers of the ocean on a moonlit night. The silence that followed was not empty, but rich with subtle textures, enveloping me like a comforting shroud. Bringing the phone closer to my ear, I whispered a tentative, "Hello?" into the void of the room. The response that came was like an echo of my own voice, distant and yet strangely familiar. Though the words were muffled, the cadence mirrored my own in an uncanny way. I sank deeper into the embrace of the couch, my fingers absently tracing patterns on the fabric as the warm glow of the lamp in the corner pulsed gently with each breath I took. Outside, the moon played peekaboo with drifting clouds, casting ethereal shadows that danced across the walls of my sanctuary. The voice on the other end began to speak more clearly, like a dream unfolding underwater, murmuring phrases that hinted at pivotal moments from my past, albeit twisted in their outcomes. Time itself seemed to bend and stretch, each second elongating into eternity as the voice delved into paths untaken and choices yet to be made. Lost in this surreal conversation, I found myself nodding along, the room's temperature shifting imperceptibly, like a whisper of spring air. My fingers tingled where they cradled the phone, the weight of a phantom wedding ring resting on my finger, a symbol of a life never lived. Details in my home appeared slightly altered, a subtle rearrangement of familiar objects, like a puzzle with pieces in the wrong places. The voice spoke of tomorrows that felt both distant and achingly close, weaving a tapestry of prophecies with a soft, measured tone as though divulging long-held secrets. Outside, the wind stirred, coaxing the branches of the ancient oak tree to tap against my window in harmony with the voice on the phone, blurring the lines between reality and reverie. And as the conversation ebbed like a river finding its way back to the sea, my own voice shared a childhood memory long forgotten, blossoming in my mind with the vividness of a time-lapse bloom. When the call finally ended, I sat in the gathering darkness, the weight of the phone a grounding presence in my hand. The call duration blinked on the screen, 47 minutes. Yet upon checking my call history, there was no trace of our conversation, save for the lingering warmth of the device and the newfound memory that now felt like an old friend rediscovered. Now, as I gaze out into the deepening night, the refrigerator's hum lulls me into a state of tranquility, punctuated by the distant chime of midnight. In the window's reflection, I notice a subtle delay in my movements, a trick of the light perhaps, or a lingering echo of the mysterious call. My phone rests silently on the table, but every so often a flicker of light catches my eye, my name and face beckoning, a ghostly reminder of that enigmatic voice calling once more. Story 28. The soft glow of moonlight filtered through the sheer curtains, painting ethereal patterns of light and shadow on the weathered wooden floor of my cozy living room. Nestled in my favorite armchair, I surrendered to the tranquil embrace of the night's stillness when my eyes landed on the ancient mahogany box perched delicately on the mantelpiece. This enigmatic box had silently occupied its place in the room since the days of my grandmother, a silent guardian of untold secrets. The box's polished exterior shimmered faintly under the moon's gentle caress, its intricate carvings appearing to come alive in the dimness. Despite its constant presence, I had never dared to explore its contents. It was a fixture of the room, an overlooked relic that blended seamlessly into the background of my daily life, much like a forgotten painting on the wall. Yet, on this particular night, a subtle shift in the air beckoned my curiosity. Was it the way the light played upon the box's embellishments, or the profound silence that enveloped the room like a comforting cloak? Rising from my chair, the woolen fabric of my sweater whispered softly as I moved through the hushed space. Each step towards the mantelpiece echoed faintly on the aged wooden floor, creating a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the beating of my heart. As I drew nearer to the box, a peculiar heaviness filled the air around it, as if a veil of unseen magic enveloped its presence. With trembling fingers, I traced the smooth surface of the mahogany, surprised by the warmth that emanated from its core, as though it held a secret life within. The intricate designs etched into the wood depicted a tapestry of intertwined leaves and branches, so finely detailed that they almost appeared to sway in a phantom breeze. For the first time, my gaze fixated on a hidden detail, a minuscule eye nestled amidst the ornate carvings on the lid. As I examined the box more closely, a faint, ancient fragrance wafted into the air. A blend of sandalwood with a mysterious undertone that stirred forgotten memories within me. Closing my eyes, I allowed the scent to transport me to a realm of elusive recollections, a distant echo of a woman's laughter, the soft murmur of whispered secrets being safeguarded within the confines of the box. The distant howl of the wind outside gently nudged me back to the present, my hands quivering with a mix of trepidation and wonder. Though devoid of any visible lock, the box had remained unopened through the passage of time. Or had it? A wave of uncertainty washed over me as fragments of childhood memories flickered like distant stars in the night sky, their meaning obscured by the mists of time. Seating myself on the worn couch, I cradled the box in my hands, its weight lighter than anticipated, yet pulsating with an intangible energy that hinted at secrets untold. A subtle movement stirred within, as if a phantom presence dwelled within its confines, dancing on the edges of perception. The warmth radiating from the box intensified, sending a shiver down my spine, not born of fear, but of a peculiar recognition, akin to meeting a long-lost acquaintance in a dream. The tiny carved eye seemed to gaze back at me, a silent witness to the enigma that lay veiled within. A whisper of memory floated through my mind, my grandmother's cryptic words resurfacing from the depths of time. Some questions find answers only when we cease to seek them. In the tranquility of the night, cradling the enigmatic box, the weight of her wisdom settled upon me like a mantle of understanding. The shadows in the room waltzed and weaved intricate patterns on the walls, mirroring the designs of the box with silent reverence. The fragrance enveloped me, weaving a spell of ancient allure, drawing me into a realm of contemplation and introspection. I pondered the countless souls who had passed through these walls, each one casting a fleeting glance at the box without ever daring to unravel its mysteries. Did the knowledge it held truly matter in the grand tapestry of existence? Placing the box gently back on its perch, a subtle shift in the atmosphere seemed to ripple through the room, a silent acknowledgement of my choice. The tiny eye on the lid appeared to twinkle with approval, as if bestowing a silent blessing upon my decision. Nestling back into the embrace of my armchair, a sense of tranquility washed over me, a profound peace that transcended the boundaries of understanding. Certain mysteries, once acknowledged, whispered not of solutions but of silent guardianship. The moon continued its silent vigil, casting a luminous glow through the curtains, infusing the night with a deeper, more profound stillness. Drifting on the cusp of slumber, I fancied I heard a faint sigh emanating from the mantelpiece, a gentle exhalation of acceptance or relief. Or perhaps it was merely the playful dance of the night wind with the curtains. The box remained perched in its place, a silent sentinel of secrets untold, a fragment of a puzzle that required no unraveling. And in that moment of realization, a newfound serenity enveloped me, cradling me in its tranquil embrace as I surrendered to the soothing embrace of sleep. Story 29. The gentle rain outside whispered against the windows, creating a soothing lullaby that enveloped the living room in a calming embrace. My loyal dog, nestled at my feet, suddenly tensed. His ears perked up, his gaze fixated on the far corner of the room. A deep rumble escaped his throat, a sound of warning or curiosity, I couldn't be sure. Intrigued, I followed his gaze, but my eyes found nothing out of the ordinary. Initially, I dismissed it as just another one of Max's peculiarities. He had always been attuned to the subtle sounds that eluded my senses. A cat's stealthy movements outside, distant echoes of footsteps, or the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. But this time felt different. Every evening, like clockwork, he would direct his attention to that particular corner, where the old wooden bookshelf met the wall beneath the vintage reading lamp. The corner itself seemed unassuming, bathed in soft shadows cast by the warm glow of the lamp. The mahogany bookshelf stood proudly, cradling my beloved collection of weathered novels, each spine a testament to countless stories embraced and cherished. A delicate pottery vase perched on the lowest shelf, holding dried lavender that filled the air with its subtle, comforting scent. As days turned into weeks, subtle shifts began to unfold in that corner of the room. The air would cool ever so slightly, a phantom chill that defied explanation, as no drafts ventured from the nearby window. The lavender's fragrance would ebb and flow, at times intensifying before fading into a mere whisper. The lamplight would dance, casting ephemeral shadows that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Max's behavior grew increasingly enigmatic. He would venture to the corner during daylight hours, his nose twitching inquisitively, his tail swaying in hesitant arcs. On occasion, he would carry his beloved tennis ball, worn and weathered from countless games, and delicately place it at the edge of the bookshelf. By morning, the ball would have shifted ever so slightly, as if nudged by unseen hands in the night. I found myself drawn to my reading chair near that enigmatic corner, wrapped in a cocoon of warmth beneath a soft blanket. The steady cadence of the grandfather clock's ticking mingled with the gentle patter of rain against the window panes, creating a symphony of tranquility. The air in that space felt different, not foreboding, but pregnant with an intangible presence. It was as though someone stood just beyond reach, a comforting specter observing with unseen eyes. One unusually hushed evening, as I lost myself in the pages of a book with Max at my side, I witnessed a marvel. The pages turned of their own accord, a graceful ballet of paper and ink that unfolded with the precision of a practiced hand. The lamplight pulsed a rhythmic ebb and flow that mimicked the steady breath of a slumbering soul. Max raised his head, yet instead of a growl, his tail wagged in gentle acknowledgement, his eyes reflecting a tranquil acceptance. It was then that a memory stirred within me. This had been my grandmother's cherished reading nook. Here, she would regale me with tales of yesteryears, her laughter mingling with the warm light of the lamp that framed her silvered hair. Though she had departed this world a decade past, her essence lingered in the minutiae, the lavender she adored, the books she treasured, the lamp that bore witness to her countless nights of solace. And so each evening, Max and I gravitate toward that corner. Sometimes I read aloud, my voice melding with the rain's gentle melody and the faint creaking of the old house. The air still shivers with the spectral chill, the lavender's perfume lingers in ghostly tendrils, and the lamp casts its ethereal dance of light and shadow. Max no longer growls, but instead, he offers a soft wag of his tail, a silent greeting to a familiar presence. In our peculiar sanctuary, I have found solace amidst the enigmatic movements and the inexplicable warmth that permeates the air. To some it may seem disquieting, a space where the boundaries between past and present blur into a tapestry of memories. Yet, I have come to understand. Not all mysteries are to be feared. Some are simply echoes of love, choosing to linger in the places where it once thrived, whispering of timeless connections that endure beyond the veil of time. Story 30. I dwell in a small yet snug apartment, where the walls wear a gentle cream hue, and the aged hardwood floors groan softly beneath my bare feet, offering a sense of solace. As I prepared to extinguish the light one night, a peculiar sight caught my eye. The wardrobe door stood slightly ajar. It struck me as odd, for I distinctly remembered shutting it tight before retiring to bed. That moment marked the beginning of a peculiar nightly routine that has since woven itself into the fabric of my existence. Every evening without fail, I ensure that the wardrobe door is firmly closed, at times even verifying the latch with a second glance. Yet as sure as the night follows day, when I rouse from slumber in the thick darkness, the door sits ajar, just a fraction. Initially, I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination, or perhaps a consequence of the draft seeping from the antiquated heating system. The gentle sigh of air coursing through the vents could easily nudge a door left unlatched. But then, subtle shifts began to catch my attention, casting doubt upon my initial dismissal. In the hushed hours between midnight and dawn, I sometimes catch faint sounds emanating from within the wardrobe. These are not menacing sounds, but rather akin to the soft rustle of fabric or the gentle murmur of autumn leaves caressing a window pane. It bears a musical quality in its softness, a lullaby woven from whispers and silk. My garments remain undisturbed, hanging in pristine order just as I arranged them. Yet on occasion, when I swing open the door come morning, a different fragrance greets me. It carries hints of rain-soaked gardens and distant echoes of my grandmother's abode, a blend of lavender and something ancient, a scent I struggle to name. Thus, I find myself sitting up during the stillness of night, observing the door bathed in the pale moon's glow seeping through my curtains. Shadows dance, playing tricks on my eyes, rendering the darkness within the wardrobe deeper than logic dictates, vaster than the physical space permits. At times, I perceive movement within that darkness, akin to ripples on a midnight pond. One tranquil night, a new discovery unfurled before me. A soft, nearly imperceptible glow emanated from the crack beneath the door. It bore no resemblance to the harsh blue of electronic devices or the yellow cast of streetlights. Rather, it mirrored starlight, silver, ageless and curiously warm. Its gentle pulsing, akin to a heartbeat, synchronized with the rhythm of my own breath. I began leaving small trinkets near the wardrobe, a flower plucked from my morning stroll, a feather discovered on my windowsill, a smooth stone catching my eye. Each dawn, they are rearranged with such meticulous precision that happenstance could never account for. Once, I left a blank sheet of paper, only to find it adorned with frost-like patterns at sunrise, intricate swirls that vanished with the day's advent. Oddly enough, fear eludes me. Though perhaps it should grip me, there exists a soothing quality to these nocturnal events. It feels as though the wardrobe harbors a gentle secret, an ancient and wise presence choosing to coexist within my abode. The melodies and scents that waft forth have evolved into a familiar lullaby, ushering me into a profound, restful sleep. Changes have unfurled in my life since this enigmatic journey commenced. My dreams have burgeoned with vivid imagery, sprawling libraries with shelves that stretch into infinity, gardens aglow beneath the stars' embrace, and doors leading into realms beyond comprehension. Upon awakening, I find myself invigorated, clutching remnants of these dreams like prized gems in my pocket. At times, I ponder whether the wardrobe serves as more than a mere portal. Could it be a guardian of sorts, keeping vigil over my nights? The notion brings solace rather than disquiet. Is there not a wondrous allure in acknowledging that mysteries yet abound, even within our most intimate spaces? I refrain from discussing this with visitors, though few grace my apartment these days. It feels like an unspoken pact between myself and the gentle presence that shares my nights. In their presence, the wardrobe remains securely sealed, its enigmas safeguarded like a shared secret. Last night, prior to retiring, I left a humble note of gratitude. Come morning, it had been replaced by a singular bloom unknown to me, petals resembling moonlight, exuding a fragrance that evokes childhood reveries. I pressed it betwixt the pages of my journal, a token of this strange and enchanting mystery that has intertwined with my existence. Each night, I close the wardrobe door, aware it will yield before daybreak. Yet now, a smile graces my lips as I do so, akin to confiding in an old comrade. Some may deem it haunting, but I elect to perceive it as a selection, chosen to partake in a marvel so beautiful and unfathomable, a reminder that reality shelters more enchantment than we dare conceive. Hence, I perpetuate my nocturnal custom, cognizant that as sleep beckons, the door shall part just a sliver, ushering in whatever gentle magic deems to visit. In a realm that oftentimes overwhelms with its clamor and certainty, a measure of solace resides in harboring a mystery that whispers rather than clamors, that begets wonder rather than dread. Story 31. The November breeze danced with the dry leaves on the driveway as I gazed at the abandoned mansion silhouetted against the dreary sky. Known as the never-inhabited house, it held a mysterious past, a whisper of a resident long forgotten. I approached the weathered gate, feeling the chill of the iron bars under my touch. The air carried a scent of moss and damp stone, wrapping the neglected garden in a cloak of wild growth and tangled vines scaling the worn walls. Yet, amidst the neglect, the mansion exuded a haunting elegance. As a real estate agent tasked with assessing the property, I ventured into the overgrown garden, noticing faint paths meandering through the weeds, hinting at recent visitors. But who could it be? The neighbors claimed no one dared to set foot on the premises. With a soft creak, the front door yielded to my touch, revealing an interior bathed in a bluish haze filtering through closed shutters. The atmosphere was heavy with dust and the lingering essence of aged wood. Each step echoed on the creaking floor as I explored the main salon, where furniture draped in yellowed sheets cast ghostly shapes in the dim light. Veiled mirrors adorned the walls, distorting reflections and casting an eerie ambiance. Climbing the stairs, I trailed my hand along the polished wooden railing, worn smooth by unknown hands. The corridor on the upper floor led to a series of closed doors, behind which lay empty rooms save for a few shrouded furnishings. It was in the final room, likely a woman's bedroom, that I sensed a disturbance. Dust coated every surface, yet certain objects appeared untouched by time. A silver brush lay beside dark, freshly shed hair, a stark contrast to the rest of the room. The bed, neatly made, bore a faint impression as though someone had recently sat upon it. A movement in the mirror caught my eye, a fleeting image of a woman seated on the bed, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Descending the stairs hastily, I felt the weight of unseen eyes upon me as the afternoon light shifted, casting deeper shadows in the room. A soft, haunting melody drifted down from above, as if carried by a long-forgotten breeze. Was it the wind, or a figment of my imagination? With a lingering unease, I left the mansion, closing the door behind me, the garden now shrouded in silence. Turning for a final glance, I thought I glimpsed a pale figure behind an upstairs window, a fleeting presence that dissolved into the shadows. In the days that followed, I compiled my report on the property, detailing its condition and potential value. Omitting the peculiar discoveries within the mansion, I penned a cryptic note. The property possesses a unique allure that may captivate a discerning buyer. For months, the house remained unsold, a silent sentinel with a mysterious air. Each time I passed by the rusted gate, I sensed a spectral presence moving within, as if waiting for an unseen guest. Perhaps the secret of the never-inhabited house lay not in its lack of occupants, but in the lingering spirit that refused to depart, forever haunting its deserted halls. Story 32. The rain cascaded down onto the roof of the old house, its hypnotic beat weaving a lulling melody that embraced the stillness of the night. Nestled in my cozy armchair, a cup of now cool chamomile tea cradled between my palms, I found myself drifting to the tranquil cadence of the raindrops. Yet, amidst this peaceful symphony, a subtle shift in the rhythm caught my attention. A delicate sound, barely perceptible, mingling with the rain's gentle percussion. Soft footsteps, as if echoing from the depths of the basement. Initially, I brushed it off as the familiar settling of the aged house. Every creak, every sigh was a part of its history, a language spoken by the time-worn beams and weathered walls. But this time, there was an eerie precision to the sounds, a cadence that bore an uncanny resemblance to human steps. Rising from my chair with deliberate movements, I placed the cup on the nearby table. The wooden floor beneath my feet radiated residual warmth, a remnant of the day's fading sun. Approaching the basement door, a chill crept into the air, swirling like an icy whisper up the steps. The brass handle greeted my touch with a startling coldness, and as I turned it, a solitary click reverberated through the hush of the house. Descending into the darkness, each step echoed softly, blending with the enigmatic footfalls that had beckoned me downstairs. The familiar scent of the basement enveloped me, a mingling of aged wood, damp earth, and an indefinable essence. Shadows danced upon the walls, cast by the intermittent flashes of lightning through the small skylight above. Shelves adorned with forgotten relics twisted into macabre shapes, their forms swaying in sync with the rain's tempo. Amidst this eerie scene, a peculiar sight seized my attention. Faint footprints imprinted on the dusty floor. They weren't ordinary prints, rather ethereal traces of moisture, as though left by someone with water-dampened feet pacing in circles at the room's center. Drawn to these enigmatic marks, I studied them intently, seeking clues to their origin. A movement in the shadowed corner of the basement stirred my senses, a slow, deliberate motion that intrigued rather than alarmed me. Venturing closer, the air grew colder, the echoes of footsteps overhead now encircling me, a spectral dance in the darkness. As I neared the obscure recess, a realization dawned upon me. The footprints were not random, but formed a deliberate pattern, a spiraling design leading to the room's heart. Following the trail with bated breath, I observed the freshest prints, still glistening with moisture, as if freshly made. Time seemed to stand still as I watched these phantom footsteps fade, dispersing into the frigid air. The echoes of footsteps gradually melded into the rain's ceaseless cadence, a seamless harmony of nature's song. Ascending the stairs once more, a sense of serenity enveloped me, as if I had borne witness to an ancient ritual, a timeless enigma hidden within the house's depths. That night, as I retired to bed, the rain's melody held a new resonance, mirroring the rhythmic dance of unseen footsteps below. Drifting into slumber, I pondered the enigma, wondering if the mysterious visitor would return with the next rain, and whether I would find the courage to unveil the secrets veiled in the dust. Story 33. The night was still, enveloped in a serene hush, broken only by the soft, rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. All the doors were securely locked, and the curtains drawn tight, signaling the end of another day. It was a moment of tranquility, a time to unwind and embrace the quiet solitude of the evening. And then a knock disrupted the peace. A gentle yet persistent rap echoed through the house, causing me to pause, my gaze instinctively drawn to the door. But there was no one to be seen outside. The memory of that peculiar evening remains vivid in my mind. The air held a hint of autumn's chill, while the warm flicker of my beloved vanilla-scented candle danced across the walls, casting soothing shadows in its wake. Nestled in my grandmother's old rocking chair, wrapped in the comforting embrace of a chenille blanket she had lovingly knitted, I delved into a worn paperback, the chair whispering softly with each gentle sway. Once more, the knock reverberated through the silence, 3 distinct taps that seemed to linger in the air, beckoning attention. I remained motionless, listening intently as the clock's steady heartbeat underscored the mysterious sound. A sense of unease crept over me as I fixated on the door, my earlier efforts to secure it flashing through my mind. The rain outside added a melodic touch, its gentle pitter-patter against the windows offering a subtle harmony to the enigmatic atmosphere within. Attempting to dismiss the unnerving knock as a figment of my imagination or a mere trick of nature, I struggled to ignore the primal intuition that whispered otherwise. Slowly rising from the chair, I approached the door, the floorboards beneath me emitting a faint murmur as I moved. The warm glow of my reading lamp extended a golden embrace, casting a soft luminescence that gently veiled the entryway, leaving it cloaked in shadows. Standing before the door, I scrutinized the space beneath, searching for any hint of movement or shadow that might betray the source of the mysterious knocking. And then another knock, closer this time, its subtle vibration palpable in the air. My hand hovered near the doorknob, the chill of the brass seeping through the thin barrier of space between us. The mingling scents of vanilla, aged wood, and rain intertwined, creating an intoxicating blend that enveloped me. With a voice barely above a whisper, I called out, "Who's there?" The words lingered, swallowed by the thick silence that enveloped me, the only response the relentless cadence of rain and the unwavering tick-tock of the clock. Moving toward the window adjacent to the door, I cautiously parted the curtain, revealing a world bathed in the warm glow of the porch light, yet devoid of any visible presence. No footprints marred the rain-kissed porch, no shadows danced in the shimmering light. As the curtain fell back into place, a peculiar sight caught my eye. The raindrops on the window seemed to form a pattern, a whispered message that captivated my senses, swaying me in its mesmerizing rhythm. The house settled around me, its ancient timbers shifting and creaking in response to the weather's embrace. And once more, the knocking resounded, its origin seemingly omnipresent, echoing through the walls, windows, and ceiling in a haunting symphony. Standing at the heart of the living room, I pivoted slowly, trying to trace the elusive source of the sound. The clock's chime struck midnight, merging with the ethereal knocks in a surreal crescendo. And then, as the final note dissipated, a profound stillness descended, seizing the very essence of time. In that suspended moment, a sight chilled me to the core. The reflection in the mirror above the fireplace revealed the rocking chair in motion, as though recently vacated. Whirling around to confront the chair directly, I found it motionless, a stark contrast to its mirrored counterpart. The vanilla candle flickered, untouched by any breeze, as the clock resumed its measured ticking, and the rain resumed its gentle serenade against the window panes. Throughout the night, I remained ensconced in my grandmother's chair, cocooned in her handcrafted blanket, a silent observer to the enigmatic occurrences. The gray light of dawn finally filtered through the curtains, lulling me into a restless slumber. Upon awakening, the room bore the semblance of normalcy. The candle extinguished, a faint trace of vanilla lingering in the air, the rain replaced by the warm embrace of sunlight. But a peculiar detail caught my eye, halting my movement. Tiny droplets of water adorned the interior of the door, a silent testament to an unseen presence that had breached the threshold. To this day, on tranquil nights veiled in rain's embrace, the gentle knocking reverberates through the house, a mysterious visitor who lingers at the precipice but never crosses over. And in those fleeting moments before sleep claims me, I ponder whether the source of the enigmatic sound lies beyond the walls or within the depths of my own being, beckoning to a primal truth long forgotten. Story 34. The night's hush was broken by a distant, gentle melody. Nestled in my cherished armchair, a woolen blanket draped over my knees, a cup of chamomile tea, now lukewarm, resting on the nearby table, I diverted my gaze from the book I held. The notes drifted like ethereal snowflakes, barely perceptible, yet undeniably present. It was a piano, I sensed, playing a tune I couldn't quite place but felt oddly familiar, akin to a faded recollection of a long-lost dream. Within the dimly lit house, only a small lamp beside me cast a circle of warm light, casting dancing shadows on the walls in rhythm with the mysterious music. Rising slowly, the blanket slipping to the floor with a soft murmur, my steps on the wooden floor elicited faint creaks as I made my way to the living room window. Outside, the night lay tranquil and still. The full moon bathed the garden in its silvery glow, outlining the swaying trees' silhouettes in the nocturnal breeze. No signs of life stirred in the neighboring houses, all swallowed by darkness. Yet the music persisted, seeming to emanate from every direction and no direction simultaneously. I traversed the house, room by room, seeking the origin of the ever-shifting melody. In the kitchen, it beckoned from the living room. In the living room, it whispered from the stairs. On the stairs, it descended from the upper floor. A hypnotic interplay of echoes and reverberations led me in a silent waltz through the familiar spaces of my dwelling. Ascending to my bedroom upstairs, I spied the slightly ajar door, though I distinctly recalled leaving it wide open that morning. Moonbeams filtered through the gossamer curtains, painting intricate patterns on the floor. The music now resonated clearer, more distinct, as if I drew near its wellspring. Halting at the threshold, I scrutinized the room intently. My ancient music box, a keepsake from my grandmother resting on the bedside table, gleamed faintly in the dimness. Unopened for years under the assumption of being broken, it now revealed its tiny ballerina twirling slowly, casting a dancing shadow on the wall. Its melody harmonized with the ethereal tune that had lured me there, amplified as though the entire house had transformed into a resonant chamber. Advancing cautiously, my heart synchronized with the rhythm, I perceived the music box radiating an unusual warmth, almost tepid to the touch. The ballerina pirouetted ceaselessly. Her visage, once a plain porcelain oval in my memory, now bore distinct features. Features I recognized. It was my grandmother's likeness, impeccably replicated in miniature, her familiar smile from my childhood mirrored on the diminutive figure. The figurine's eyes seemed to lock with mine briefly, and in that fleeting moment, the melody shifted, morphing into a lullaby she had sung to me in my youth. Immobilized, I allowed the music to envelop me like an old friend's embrace. Fear eluded me, replaced by a profound serenity and wistfulness. The notes continued to fill the room until gradually receding, akin to waves retreating from the shore. As the music faded to silence, the music box closed softly with a muted click. A different silence settled over the house, pregnant with significance. Descending to my armchair downstairs, retrieving the blanket from the floor and enveloping myself once more in its cozy embrace, I found the book still open to the page I had left. However, my mind strayed from the text, dwelling on the music box and my grandmother. I pondered how many melodies had lain captive within those silent gears, awaiting the opportune moment for release. Since that fateful night, occasionally when the house lies particularly still and the full moon bathes the garden in its glow, a sweet, familiar melody wafts through the rooms. I no longer seek its source. I simply close my eyes and listen, understanding that some enigmas require no unraveling to be comprehended. Story 35. The house lay still, enveloped in the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the settling wood. I lounged on the couch, teetering on the edge of slumber, when a soft glow beckoned my attention. A flicker of light illuminated the hallway. A knot twisted in my stomach. I resided alone, and I hadn't budged an inch. In that unexpected radiance, the familiar contours of my home took on a mysterious allure. The vintage photographs adorning the walls seemed to drink in the light, their silver frames gleaming with a subtle radiance. The antique grandfather clock, a gift from my parents, maintained its rhythmic cadence, the gentle ticks a comforting presence in the quietude. I stayed motionless, attuned to the house's quiet exhalations. The heating system murmured through the vents, carrying the unmistakable aroma of warm dust that winter always ushered in. Mr. Whispers, my feline companion, lay nestled on the windowsill, his ebony fur outlined by the moon's glow. He remained still, an unusual sight. Normally, any unexpected disturbance would prompt at least a flicker of his ears. The hallway light exuded a soft, golden hue, softer than my recollection. It evoked memories of summertime evenings when the sun would drape everything in honeyed shades before bidding adieu. Yet, this light held a different quality. The shadows it cast seemed to sway with a fluid grace, akin to underwater plants swaying in a gentle current. I found myself entranced by these shadows, observing how they deviated from the objects casting them. The sharp angle the bookshelf should have created was replaced by a graceful curve along the wall. The small table housing my keys cast multiple overlapping shadows, each one slightly askew from the others. The room's temperature began to shift, not in a sudden, jolting manner that instilled fear, but in a gradual, almost imperceptible shift. It brought to mind stepping from shade into sunlight on a breezy spring day. Warm patches drifted across my skin like fleeting clouds, followed by cooler currents redolent of rain-kissed earth. My grandmother used to regale me with tales of light and shadows. She spoke of how homes acquired their own consciousness over time, absorbing the emotions and memories of those who dwelt within their confines. "Houses have memories," she would whisper, her voice tinged with wisdom. "They gather moments just like we gather photographs." As I observed, the light's essence began to transform. It pulsated gently, akin to a heartbeat, yet so languidly that only utter stillness allowed its detection. With each pulse, I glimpsed something in the hallway mirror, something simultaneously familiar and alien. The reflection depicted my hallway, yet not quite as I knew it. The family photographs on the walls appeared to capture different instances, with faces turned slightly away or smiling when they shouldn't have been. Mr. Whispers finally stirred, stretching leisurely on his perch by the window. He gazed down the hallway, his demeanor devoid of alarm. His tail curled contentedly as he observed something just beyond my line of sight. The soft rumble of his purr mingled with the grandfather clock's steady beat. A subtle rhythm emerged in the light's pulsing, synchronized with my breathing, or perhaps my breath had unconsciously harmonized with it. The warm currents continued their languid waltz around me, now carrying a faint hint of vanilla and aged books, my grandmother's signature fragrance. The light began to wane, not abruptly, but akin to the gradual descent of the afternoon sun through curtained windows. As it receded, I noticed the shadows it left behind retained their fluidity for a fleeting moment. They seemed to reach out to me, not menacingly, but with a gentle inquisitiveness, akin to cats extending their paws while deliberating whether to approach. When darkness finally reclaimed the hallway, it felt different. The house enveloped me like a cozy quilt, and I realized fear had no place within me. The grandfather clock chimed softly, signaling the hour, and Mr. Whispers hopped down to nestle beside me. His purring persisted, a steady lullaby. In the ensuing days, I often pondered that night. I kept the experience to myself, yet I found myself more attuned to the play of light within my abode. Occasionally, in the hushed interludes between midnight and dawn, I caught glimpses of that same golden glow dancing in mirrors or gliding across walls. The house remembered, as my grandmother had asserted, and sometimes in its gentle way, it imparted those memories to me. The hallway light never flickered on autonomously again, at least not in the same manner. But now and then, as I drifted between wakefulness and slumber, I felt that familiar warmth envelop me, carrying with it the essence of vanilla and aged books. In those moments, I comprehended my grandmother's words about houses harboring memories. Some enigmas aren't meant for unraveling, but for experiencing. The gentle pulse of light in the dark, or the soft caress of a memory just beyond grasp. Story 36. The gentle hum of my computer filled the room with a soothing melody as I settled in to check my emails. In the quiet stillness, a flicker of light caught my eye, unveiling a message unlike any I had seen before. The sender bore my name, yet the subject line whispered a cryptic warning. Don't venture outside tomorrow. A curious shiver danced down my spine, not of fear, but of intrigue. The soft glow of the monitor cast delicate shadows across my desk as I leaned in, my fingers poised above the mousepad. The timestamp on the email revealed a mysterious origin, sent from a time 3 days ahead, sending a ripple of anticipation through my being. Outside, the rain painted a tranquil melody on my window, its rhythmic patter a lullaby to my senses. I opened the email, the words unfurling on the screen with deliberate grace. I see your confusion now. I recall sitting where you are, absorbing these very words. The dim light in your room, the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the distance. Listen to its rhythm. Truly listen. I paused, allowing the steady heartbeat of the clock to weave into my consciousness, a familiar companion I had long overlooked. The message beckoned me to remain indoors until noon, to steep a cup of chamomile tea I had been saving for a special occasion. Observe from your window at 8:17, it urged, hinting at an enigma to unfold. My fingertips traced patterns on the cool surface of my desk, grounding me in the present, while my thoughts danced among the unknown possibilities. There was an aura of gentle caution in the message, akin to a guardian guiding a wayward soul. I spent the evening in a state of serene awareness, attuned to nuances I had previously missed. The subtle sway of my curtains, the lingering scent of lavender, the whispers of my home settling, all painted a portrait of familiarity tinged with newfound wonder. That night, sleep embraced me in its tender embrace, cradled by the symphony of rain and the promise of a morning veiled in mystery. In the hush of dawn, I awoke unprompted, the room bathed in an ethereal light that draped the world in a dreamlike haze. The sky outside held a peculiar hue, a subtle shift in reality's canvas. Following the instructions, I brewed chamomile tea in my cherished porcelain cup, the crack adding a touch of elegance to its imperfection. The golden elixir swirled, releasing tendrils of steam that mingled with the morning air, a dance of elements in silent communion. At 8:10, I settled by the window, tea cradled in my hands. The world below lay in a tranquil slumber, devoid of its usual bustle. At 8:15, a ripple of distortion shimmered through the air, a mirage of time's elusive dance. At 8:17, revelation dawned. The oak tree across the street became a tapestry of seasons intertwined, a fleeting glimpse of time's fluidity. Branches adorned with both summer's lushness and winter's barrenness coexisted harmoniously, a symphony of nature's eternal cycle. As the anomaly dissipated, a single crimson leaf pirouetted from the tree, a symbol of autumn's embrace in the heart of spring. Sipping my cooling tea, a smile played on my lips, understanding blooming within me like the delicate petals of a flower. In that ephemeral moment, time unveiled its secrets, a silent waltz of existence beyond comprehension. Later that day, I penned an email, destined to traverse time and space, not to alter fate, but to gift myself a moment of quiet revelation. Some mysteries, I realized, are not meant to be deciphered but embraced, to be witnessed as whispers of a reality just beyond our grasp. The world's quiet miracles unfurled before me, a gentle reminder of the beauty in surrendering to the unknown. The grandfather clock continued its timeless cadence, a sentinel of constancy in a world of fleeting wonders. In its rhythmic ticking, I found solace, a silent assurance that the extraordinary moments are not defined by answers, but by the tranquility of acceptance. Perhaps, in the grand tapestry of existence, the most profound gift is the grace of observation, a chance to witness life's mysteries with a heart attuned to the symphony of the universe's secrets. Story 37. The day was drawing to a close, and I decided to snap a selfie to capture the essence of the moment, the sun dipping below the horizon behind me. Later, as I gazed at the photo, a peculiar discovery unfolded. There in the background, a mysterious figure lingered in the shadows, a presence unnoticed during the snapshot. The memory of that evening remains crystal clear in my mind. The atmosphere was heavy with the sweet fragrance of autumn leaves, while a gentle breeze carried the faint melody of distant wind chimes. I strolled through my beloved park, witnessing the golden light filtering through the trees, casting elongated shadows over the weathered wooden benches and meandering pathways. The slight drop in temperature prompted me to snug my cardigan closer around me. The park exuded a serene quietness, interrupted only by the rustle of leaves and the soft crunch of gravel underfoot. This time of day, when the world paused between light and darkness, always held a special allure for me. Finding a serene spot near an ancient stone wall cloaked in ivy, I watched as the setting sun painted the sky in hues of amber and rose. Eager to preserve this tranquil moment, I raised my phone, adjusted my position for the perfect shot, and flashed a smile as the camera clicked softly. Later that night, ensconced in the dim glow of my living room with a cup of chamomile tea, I scrolled through the images from my walk. The gentle patter of rain against the window provided a soothing backdrop to my evening routine. When I reached the selfie, my finger hesitated above the screen. Nestled between two trees, the figure I had not seen before stood out, its presence sending a shiver down my spine. Initially, I attempted to rationalize it away. Maybe it was a fellow parkgoer I overlooked, though I distinctly recalled solitude. Perhaps it was a mere play of light and shadow, my mind conjuring illusions. Yet upon zooming in, the figure materialized more distinctly. Clad in antiquated attire, the fabric seemed to ripple despite the stillness captured in the photo. Their face obscured in shadow, the figure appeared to gaze directly at me, a deliberate presence perfectly framed within the picture. What unsettled me was not their sudden appearance, but the feeling that they belonged there. An enigmatic piece completing a puzzle I hadn't realized was missing. In the days that ensued, I found myself repeatedly drawn to the photo. With each gaze, new details emerged. The figure's outline slightly blurred compared to the sharp clarity of the surroundings, the unnaturally deep shadows enveloping them, their subtle magnetic pull despite being in the background. I began taking more photos at sunset in the park, hoping to capture another glimpse of my mysterious companion. Yet, they never reappeared. The park remained serene, enchanting, and unremarkable in subsequent images. Sometimes, as I walk alone at twilight, I sense a gentle shift in the air, as if a presence had just passed by. This sensation harkens back to that evening, to the figure in the photo existing in a realm between reality and shadow. I continue to carry my phone, snapping pictures, but now I scrutinize the quiet spaces in the backdrop, where light and darkness converge. What captivates me most is not fear, but a peculiar tranquility that has settled within me since that fateful day. The figure in the photo never felt menacing. Rather, their presence hinted at hidden layers within our perception of reality. In certain moments, when light dances just so and the world grows still, these layers align briefly. The photo remains in my possession, shared sparingly with others. Some experiences are best kept in the delicate balance between certainty and curiosity, like the final rays of sunlight lingering on the horizon before night descends. And sometimes, as I drift into slumber, I ponder if, in another photograph taken by someone else, I might appear as an unexpected figure in the background, a mysterious entity suspended between one moment and the next. Story 38. The weariness of a long day lingered as I entered my study. The soft glow of the desk lamp cast gentle shadows on the familiar book-lined walls. The scent of old paper and ink embraced me like a comforting whisper as I settled into my worn leather armchair. My grandmother's gift, the old diary, lay open on the polished wooden desk, its yellowed pages holding my deepest thoughts. To my surprise, the last page was no longer blank. A different, elegant script adorned the paper, weaving a tale I did not remember penning. The ink glistened freshly, as if the hand had just lifted from writing. Intrigued, I leaned in, my breath slowing. The words painted a scene of the very room I sat in, capturing the essence of that autumn evening. Rain tapped a soothing rhythm on the window, blending with the gentle rustle of unseen pages. The lamp flickered, casting dancing shadows that mesmerized me. The mysterious prose seemed to anticipate my every move, drawing me deeper into its enchantment. Curiosity urged him to turn the page, the text beckoned, and as I obeyed, new words materialized before my eyes, as if guided by an unseen force. The ink flowed effortlessly, mirroring my sensations in exquisite detail. The warmth of the lamp, the heaviness of my breath, the shiver down my spine, all described with uncanny accuracy. I rose from my chair, unable to tear my gaze from the transfixing pages that filled with mystical words. The narrative now delved into the titles of books on my shelves, some unfamiliar yet present in my study. The writing unfolded like a hypnotic melody, marking time in the silent room. Sitting on the couch, I watched as the diary continued to write itself, the rain's rhythm intensifying, cocooning me in a world apart from reality. Closing my eyes, I surrendered to the rain's lullaby. When I opened them, the diary had transformed, delving into my hidden memories and unspoken moments. The words conversed with me intimately, evoking a sense of shared secrets. Moving closer, I felt a profound connection with the unfolding narrative, a silent dialogue that revealed deeper truths. Curiosity mingled with peace as the night progressed, each word a step towards an elusive understanding. As midnight chimed, I realized hours had slipped by in this strange communion with the diary. The final words appeared. Some mysteries don't need solving to be understood. Closing the diary gently, I traced the leather cover, pondering the enigmatic revelation. The rain outside now felt like a companion, not mere background noise. Would the words remain come morning, or vanish like a dream? Retiring to bed, I stole a final glance at the study. The diary lay innocently on the desk, yet a shift had occurred, not in the external world, but within me. Those self-scripting pages had unlocked a deeper awareness, a mystery I could not yet grasp. Night enveloped the study in silence. The lamp's amber glow, a silent witness to a secret that may never fully reveal itself. And in that moment of closure, I understood that some mysteries are most precious when shrouded in enigma. Story 39. In the air lingered the scent of damp earth and wet leaves, a comforting embrace that whispered of hidden secrets. The branches swayed gently above, allowing soft golden rays of the setting sun to dance through the canopy. I strolled along a narrow path, drawn by the distant melody of a bird weaving through the trees. And then, as if slipping into a dream, the song faded into silence, and the path vanished before my eyes. Standing still, I inhaled the ancient breath of the forest, feeling the plush moss beneath my feet caress me like velvet with each step. The evening light draped everything in hues of warm amber, yet a subtle shift had occurred. Shadows extended their reach, like delicate fingers stretching across the forest floor. My footsteps echoed silently as I continued onward, a silent companion to the mysterious transformation unfolding around me. The forest had undergone a metamorphosis, taking on an ethereal essence I had never encountered before. The trees stood taller, their bark shimmering with elusive patterns that danced when I turned away. White flowers scattered the ground, their gentle glow adding to the enchantment of the fading light. A gradual chill crept through the air, accompanied by a delicate mist that wrapped the tree trunks in gossamer veils. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of water beckoned, its source elusive as it seemed to echo from all directions at once. An unfamiliar sweetness perfumed the air, a blend of honey and ancient tomes stirring memories I couldn't quite place. As I ventured forward, intricately arranged stones caught my eye, forming intricate circles and spirals with purposeful precision. Some bore delicate etchings, while others emitted a faint inner light, urging me to leave them undisturbed in their harmonious alignment. The forest thickened, yet a luminous quality permeated the mist, casting a soft, pearlescent glow that bathed my surroundings. Passing through clearings, where secrets whispered among the grass and mushrooms formed rings mirroring celestial patterns above, I felt a connection to the unseen rhythms of the universe. Though the canopy obscured the sky, an unspoken understanding told me the constellations mirrored those below. Time flowed like honey, its passage fluid and elusive. Minutes and hours held equal weight as I traversed the shifting landscape. My watch had ceased its ticking, its hands seemingly tracing backward paths when my gaze averted. The crystal face, adorned with intricate frost-like patterns, seemed to breathe life into the frozen moment. A small stream defied gravity, its crystal-clear waters reflecting nothing of my own visage as I peered into its depths. Beneath the surface, lights danced in a mesmerizing display, akin to stars trapped in liquid motion. The stream's melodic murmur, reminiscent of reversed melodies, carried a haunting beauty that resonated deep within. Occasionally, fleeting movements caught my peripheral gaze, gentle shifts in the air hinting at unseen presences moving in tandem with my journey. Figures, veiled in mystery, walked parallel to my path, their purpose unbound by my transient presence, like phantoms in a bustling station. The moss at my feet wove intricate patterns, spirals and waves unfurling with each step before fading into the ether, as if the forest itself was etching my passage to its memory only to erase it in the next breath. The air shimmered with minuscule points of light, akin to purposeful fireflies crafting ephemeral shapes that teased at recognition. Entering a vast clearing, geometric patterns swirled in the mist, leading to an ancient tree at its heart, its twisted trunk forming a natural cathedral. The leaves shifted hues with each breath, painting a kaleidoscope of colors beyond earthly description. Drawing closer, I discerned cryptic inscriptions adorning the bark, their meaning transcending language yet resonating with my innermost being like gentle whispers of forgotten tales. Night descended, yet darkness found no haven in this realm. Instead, a silver twilight enveloped the forest, emanating from all directions and none simultaneously. The air thrummed with a soothing vibration, harmonizing with the rhythm of my own heartbeat, or perhaps guiding it. Fear had dissipated, engulfed by the familiar embrace of this enigmatic realm that beckoned with the allure of the unknown. Here I remain, penning these words in a journal materialized from the unknown, the ink flowing upwards to craft letters as if guided by unseen hands. Lost in the conventional sense, I am not, for I am precisely where I am meant to be, even if the destination eludes my conscious grasp. The forest holds its secrets close, a silent witness to my wandering soul, offering a sanctuary where the boundaries of reality blur into the infinite. The bird's melody that once guided me has faded, replaced by new harmonies that taste of moonbeams and feel like autumn caresses against my skin. Perhaps I shall follow these new strains of music next, or perhaps I shall linger here, where the impossible feels as natural as the whispered breeze and time flows like a gentle stream through cupped hands. Lost, they say, only matters if the seeking is the goal. Story 40. In the antique shop, the scent of aged paper and well-worn wood enveloped me like a familiar embrace. Tracing my fingers over dust-covered book spines, one particular tome beckoned to me. Its cracked leather cover whispered of untold tales, and as I gingerly opened it, a jolt of recognition sent my heart aflutter. There, on the first page, was my name inscribed in a script unknown to me. Raindrops danced against the shop's windows, their soft patter weaving a delicate harmony with the quickening rhythm of my own pulse. Stepping closer to a weathered leather armchair bathed in the gentle glow of a small reading lamp, the wooden floor beneath me sighed with each creak. Nestling into the chair, its embrace felt like a whispered secret shared only with me. The diary I held radiated a subtle warmth, as if it had been anticipating my arrival all along. Tracing the faded ink with my fingertips, I marveled at how some letters appeared to meld into the yellowed pages, as if attempting to divulge hidden truths. The first entry, penned decades past, bore a striking resemblance to my own handwriting, the graceful curves, the slanted strokes mirroring my own. A simple observation graced the page. Strange how memories slip between moments, akin to shadows passing through unnoticed doorways. With each line I devoured, the rain outside transitioned from a mere tap to a continuous murmur, its droplets carrying whispers of a story long forgotten. The room enveloped me in a perfect equilibrium of warmth and comfort, lulling me deeper into the narrative. The diary unfurled tales of inexplicable occurrences, where reality folded upon itself in enigmatic ways. Footsteps echoed in empty chambers, reflections defied logic, and unseen entities left ephemeral traces. One passage seized my attention. Time is a fabric of intricate weaves and unexpected folds, not a linear path. Some memories transcend mere recollection, existing simultaneously in disparate moments. Fear was absent from the writer's words, replaced by a profound sense of awe and curiosity. As I delved further, the rain's cadence harmonized with each turned page, melding with the lamp's golden light to create a symphony of tranquility. The diary narrated of familial ties that transcended comprehension, of shared experiences echoing through generations like ripples in a vast, timeless pond. Evening descended, casting soft shadows among the bookshelves, infusing the shop with an air of mystery. The rain persisted in its gentle serenade, a constant companion in the evolving tale. The final entries veered into abstract realms, exploring dreams that felt more tangible than reality itself, delving into the fluid nature of perception and memory. Hours slipped away unnoticed, yet a serene calm enveloped me, cradling me in a space between the known and the enigmatic. Closing the diary as darkness settled around me, the leather cover exuded a comforting warmth, as if enfolding the essence of countless moments within its warm embrace. Outside, the rain's soft melody continued, a soothing lullaby of uncertainty. Some mysteries, I realized, are not meant to be unraveled but embraced, Some stories are crafted to lead us into introspective realms of tranquility and wonder. The diary lingered in my hands, a bridge between the tangible and the ethereal, beckoning me to surrender to the beauty of life's enigmatic essence. Story 41. The soft rhythm of raindrops tapping against my window became a familiar melody that accompanied me on my nightly writing ventures. Each droplet traced shimmering paths down the glass, weaving an intricate tapestry of liquid light. The warm glow of my desk lamp enveloped me in a soft amber aura, casting the rest of the room into a comforting embrace of shadows. I found solace in observing the raindrops, seeking out hidden stories in their meandering journeys. But on this particular night, a subtle shift in their dance caught my attention. The water flowed in curious patterns, as if guided by an unseen force. Initially, I brushed it off as a trick of my weary eyes. The gentle rain almost lulled me into a tranquil state between consciousness and slumber. Yet, as I continued to watch, the peculiar formations grew more defined. Some droplets avoided certain areas on the glass, creating dry patches that gradually outlined a mysterious figure. Intrigued, I leaned in closer to the window, my breath hitching in anticipation. The reflection not only mirrored the rain outside, but also captured the dimly lit interior of my room behind me. However, it was my own reflection that held an eerie fascination. It moved out of sync with my actions, a fraction delayed in its responses. The rain's whisper intensified, a soothing symphony that filled the room with its tranquil melody. Mesmerized, I witnessed my reflection's hand reaching out to touch the glass, a gesture I did not make. The movement was fluid, elegant, as if following a dance I had never learned. A gentle warmth caressed my skin, contrasting the chill of the night air by the window. Slowly, imperceptibly, the features of my reflection began to transform, shifting into a form both recognizable and enigmatic. The eyes that stared back at me held a wisdom that transcended time, depths that seemed to hold the secrets of ages past. Motionless, I observed as my reflection evolved into a being beyond gender, beyond age, embodying a sense of timelessness. The rain swirled around it in a hypnotic display, forming intricate circles that defied gravity. A flicker of my desk lamp momentarily dimmed the room, casting a brief shadow over the scene. In that fleeting darkness, I sensed a presence beside me, gentle and comforting. As the light steadied, my reflection returned to its mirrored mimicry, aligning perfectly with my movements. Yet the rain continued its ethereal dance, a reminder of the extraordinary encounter that had unfolded. I remained by the window for hours, lost in contemplation of the enigmatic visitation. The presence I had felt lingered like a cherished memory, a whisper of something beyond ordinary comprehension. With the approach of dawn, the rain gradually waned, leaving behind only faint streaks on the window, marking where the mysterious display had taken place. Now, on rainy evenings, I find myself drawn to that window, abandoning pen and paper on my desk. In those rare moments when the rainfall creates a perfect mirror, I catch glimpses of my other self gazing back at me through the glass. We share a silent understanding, recognizing that some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled but experienced in their full wonder. The rain continues to fall, each drop carrying the promise of another encounter with the unknown. And in those quiet interludes between watcher and watched, I ponder if, in a parallel realm of existence, another version of myself sits by their own window, yearning for a glimpse of my world through the glistening threads of rain. Story 42. The night was draped in a heavy darkness, with only a faint glow from the street lamp outside casting feeble light into the room. I shifted in bed, seeking solace in a more comfortable position when suddenly I was seized by a moment of stillness. A subtle weight rested at the foot of the mattress, as if a silent observer sat there, unmoving, watching me intently. My breath slowed to a tranquil rhythm as I lay motionless, trying to decipher the enigmatic presence. The weight lingered, a gentle indentation in the mattress, patient and unwavering, like a visitor biding their time for the opportune moment. The ancient house groaned around me, its wooden frame settling into the night's embrace, each creak resonating with a newfound significance. I honed my senses, for the dim light played tricks on my eyes. A coolness lingered in the air, a whisper of chill uncommon for the season. My cotton sheets seemed to anchor me in place, their weight pressing down with a strange insistence. Outside, through the partially open window, leaves rustled in the nocturnal breeze, their murmur no longer a lullaby, but a cryptic utterance beyond comprehension. Time ebbed and flowed mysteriously, the distinction between minutes and hours blurred as I lay in stillness, attuned to every subtle shift in the atmosphere, every delicate sound. The street lamp's glow cast elongated shadows that pulsed in harmony with the swaying branches outside, a rhythmic dance of light and shadow. My heartbeat thrummed steadily, not in fear, but in a primal communion with the night. Gradually, as my eyes adjusted to the gloom, shapes materialized from the shadows, the familiar contours of furniture, the drape of curtains, and a deeper darkness at the foot of my bed. It remained motionless, a silent sentinel, neither menacing nor benign, simply existing in quietude, awaiting acknowledgement. A tranquil curiosity replaced my initial shock, an unnameable emotion enveloping me in its enigmatic embrace. Memories of my grandmother's tales surfaced, of nocturnal visitors who observed, remembered, and bore witness without malice. The gentle ticking of my bedside clock marked the passage of time, a constant reminder of the world's ceaseless rotation even in this suspended moment. An ephemeral car passed by, its headlights momentarily illuminating the room, revealing only ordinary shadows. Yet the weight persisted, steadfast and undeniable. Subtle shifts permeated the room, a metallic tang in the air, shadows imbued with newfound depth, and a profound silence that seemed to listen to the night itself. Pondering the nights spent in this room, the dreams dreamt, and the silent soliloquies uttered in the dark, I wondered if this presence had always been there, unseen. Had it borne witness to my joys, my sorrows, my midnight musings? Instead of unease, a sense of companionship enveloped me, a shared intimacy with the unseen guest. With the softening of pre-dawn light, a subtle alteration occurred. The weight at the foot of the bed began to dissipate like morning mist, gradually lifting. I remained still, refraining from directly confronting its departure. Some things, I realized, were meant to be felt and remembered, not scrutinized. When I finally rose, the room lay empty, bathed in the gentle glow of early morning. The impression on the mattress, where the weight had lingered, remained undisturbed, a silent testament to the night's visitor. Yet a transformation had taken place. The room felt expansive, pregnant with newfound possibilities previously unimagined. Each night, as I settled into slumber, I became attuned to the surrounding spaces in a way I had never been before. I embraced the nuances of darkness, the texture of silence, and the weight of shadows.